How are you, sir? Good to see you. Good, how are you?
That's some serious construction there. All the stuff they have, the programs that they have put in place for it.
Really?
I'll tell you what, they all do a really good job.
Yeah, I know. Me too. Get some food, girl. Oh well. That's awesome. Do you feel a lot better?
Yeah.
Good.
I wear size 14 pants now.
What
It's
do
like
you
my sister.
attribute it to? Just
Well,
steady.
It's taken me 2 years.
Okay, so it's a steady.
Yeah. So, yeah, I started in April of 2022 with Teresa walking a mile a day. Now we're up to 4 miles a day.
It's awesome. It does make a difference.
I had a little hiccup when I was going through chemo radiation, but I never lost my appetite.
Right.
Lost a little hair, but besides that.
Where is Charlie? Where's Charlie?
Is Charlie out of town? Is Charlie out of town? Oh.
One way not to vote on the amendment. The growth things that we got to do.
Let's interrupt. I wouldn't do that.
On your way.
Hey, let's get a picture of all the Burgess brothers while you're here.
Trying to figure out why one was here.
Why is he here?
I don't know. I think it's just,
Oh, the hospital for Nick.
he'll probably roll out.
Guy from Abbott Station didn't come though, so that's good.
So then we want to, hey,
I know.
brotherhood.
We're going to League. Good. Amy and I are going.
I'm bringing Bob.
Are you good? Are you going Wednesday or Thursday?
Thursday evening. We'll get there right in time for the party. I've got so much going on at work, I can't get away.
Would you take him, Bill?
2,000 square foot GSA job.
Good. And busy still, huh?
That job is a year in my office. That's the longest job that we've ever had. Because you know, TI stuff usually doesn't take that long.
Right. Right. Well, why was it?
Because we're doing full service for them, so we're doing boarding and
Billy. Is the,
What kind of a bill?
are we doing those ranking after the meeting?
IRS.
Oh, wow. Good job, hasn't it?
Writing a check to the IRS again this year. Told Bob, maybe you need to buy a truck, or buy a business. Buy big trucks in the business.
Pay it forward over. I remember.
I sell the business. Rental property.
But you're right.
You guys ready here? You guys ready? Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular city council meeting of Monday, August 12th, 2024. It is 6:02 p.m. May I have the roll call, please?
Kenneth Burgess,
Here.
Charles Proctor, Lance Smith,
Here.
Here.
Stephen Spina,
Here.
Mayor Munson,
Here.
Here.
All right, at this time, I would like for everyone to rise. We're going to have our airport executive assistant, Lucy Huber, deliver the invocation, and we followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. Would you bow your heads with me, please? Father in heaven, we want to thank and praise you for your many blessings. One of them is that we have the freedom to meet together tonight to go over the business of the city of Zephyrhills. We want to thank you for that. Lord, we pray you would pour out godly wisdom and discernment on these, our city officials, that they would make decisions that would honor you and benefit the people of this community. We agree with King Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, that when good people rule, everyone is glad. But when rulers are bad, everyone groans. So we have much to be thankful for tonight. And I, for one, am thankful for these wise rulers. And I ask that your Son, Jesus Christ, be honored and glorified in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance. United States of America. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting, and if you could silence your electronics at this time, please. At the end of the meeting, there will be a time for citizen comments on items that maybe weren't addressed during the agenda. You will have 3 minutes to speak. If you can sign up with the city clerk here to speak, you'll have 3 minutes, and then as you come to the podium, if you could state your name and address for the record whenever you do that. At this time, we're going to
President,
go
can
to the...
can I add an item to the agenda, please, right after the consent item?
Okay, the mayor has an emergency item to be presented immediately following the consent items.
Yeah, we just need to talk about the SVB indoor sports complex, if possible.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the mayor's proposed emergency agenda item.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the mayor's motion, emergency agenda item. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. And now we'll move on to the consent agenda items. We have 6 items tonight. And I will turn over to the pleasure of the council on what to proceed.
Mr. President, I move approval of all the consent agenda items.
A second.
A motion second to approve all 6 consent agenda items. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. At this time, the mayor's emergency item has been added, and it is the SVB indoor sports complex. So I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Yes, council, if I could, A.D. Morgan has been working with us for the indoor facility there at SVB, and this item was supposed to be on the agenda, and I overlooked my notes, and so A.D. Morgan is here to present the GMP and alternatives and the bids for tonight for recommendations, and then after discussion, we'll be able to bring the agreement back to council at a future meeting. So if Matt, yep, please. Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, welcome back to the podium.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's been a while. All right. Well, thank Thank you, Council, for allowing us the opportunity to present our guaranteed maximum price this evening for the SVB Indoor Sports Complex. We're excited and really elated to be at this point for the project. This has been a culmination of effort between us, the city, for Wegman and Banks, and the rest of the team over, gosh, what feels like an eternity. But you know, here we are with this milestone, so let's jump into the guaranteed maximum price review. I'd like Jeremy Warner to do the presentation of our detailed cost estimate. So with that, Jeremy, please take it away.
What you see here is the executive summary of the detailed breakdown that we provided with the GMP, breaking it down by the individual main divisions of construction, including permit costs, contingencies, and pre-construction costs. The base bid is for the new building. This is an enclosed structure, approximately 11,000 square feet, with an indoor tennis court and an indoor pickleball court. Alternate one is for 4 outdoor tennis courts. Alternate 2 is a budgetary item to enclose the 2 outdoor courts at the new facility. Alternate 2A is to just do a standard cover. This would just be a pre-engineered shade structure on it. It wouldn't be air conditioned below. There would be some large format fans in there to help with the exhaust, but it would be basically covered from the rain. Alternate bid item number 3, this was an option to do a stone and brick veneer at the new facility. This is a rendering of that facility. It would match similar to the brick and stone that are on this building. So the lower portion, approximately 4 feet up, would be a stone with a cap, and then there would be a rougher stone above, additional trim piece, and then above that would be the mirror the stone, and then above that would be the brick. There would be the 4 corner pieces, which would have the brick wrap that would go up approximately 26 feet to the top. It would drop down a little bit below the final roof eave there, but it would that item is $566,000. That includes all the stone, but it also includes a backer system behind it made up of metal stud, probably a dense glass type material, and an air and water barrier for moisture intrusion.
I just ask you a question. If it's not this, it'd just be a metal painted building.
Another picture
Okay.
of what the building is designed to
Thank
look
you.
like. Without it, it's a two-toned, pre-engineered metal building with the corners, instead of it being, let me get it, probably, once I get to the picture, it'll be easier to explain. And then alternate 4 and 5 are dealing with outdoor lighting. Right now, the 2 courts at the new building do not have outdoor lighting. It is roughed in for it as part of the base bid, but if lights are wanted for that, it'll be $107,000. This will be a Musco type light or equivalent system. And then option 5 for $210,000 would add 4 outdoor lights at the new 4-court option. Just a kind of brief overview of the building where we're at. The new facility is 11,000 square feet. Its primary purpose will be the central tennis court. It does have option for pickleball in the corner. The main tennis court will also be set up for volleyball and basketball. There'll be 2 retractable basketball hoops. Off at the top right corner, there is a restrooms for men and women. There's an office, lobby, and then a mechanical and storage room. Just a closer shot of everything. There are the 2 outdoor courts that they'll be enclosed with a chain link fence to help isolate the facility a little bit more, because it will be used for students at the nearby facility. Here you can kind of see what the proposed exterior will look like. The pre-engineered metal panels normally will tend to run vertically throughout there, but we did add horizontal accent panels on the 4 corners, and then at the main entry canopy to kind of have a little liven feature. There are allowances included for the logo and the lettering on the building on there for final options and design. bid alternates items 1 and 5, that would be for the 4 additional courts on the northern part of the campus. This would be the total cost of $1,200,000 approximately for the 4 outdoor courts and sports lighting for that. And then as we kind of go through there and look at taking base bid, alternate 1 and alternate 5, the cost would be $4,755,576.36.
So that's, that is essentially where we've left to date with the allowable dollars that we've, that the city's been able to come up with. That's really kind of maximized the best of both worlds. Getting those 4 additional courts was really a top priority throughout this entire endeavor, in addition to getting the new facility with the 2 outdoor courts. So this is a culmination of the base bid, alternate 1 and alternate number 5. So, with that, as we look at the schedule now, we're hoping for approval this evening so that we can, jump into our procurement phase. The metal building is a key component, as we've discussed before, as well as our electrical switchgear and some of the other long lead items that we really need to get a jump on, particularly paying respect to the funding timeline with the grant deadline for the end of summer next year that we need to be very cognizant of. The permitting process has started, so we're really hoping for an expeditious completion of permitting so that we can hit the ground running. So next steps, we're here this evening requesting approval, jumping on the long lead procurement, finalize permit review, and hopefully getting started on time so we can finish everything on time.
If I can remind council, this project is funded by state appropriation, and then a developer made a contribution, dollars that can only be spent at the tennis center. So that's the funding source for this project.
What is the total amount that we have available for expenditure?
4,755,576.
So that's it right there.
That's
Yeah,
the
yes,
total
ma'am.
we have.
So,
Okay.
so the question I have is, you've offered us these alternates. The alternates total $4,994 and change. Okay, so almost $5 million is alternates 1, 2, 2A, 3, 4, and 5. Were those alternates developed in conjunction with the Tennis Pro Florida and they were kind of ranked by by importance?
Let me back up to the summary of the alternates. So alternate number 1, the 4 outdoor courts on the existing SVB campus,
Yes.
was a priority from day one as we understood it.
Right.
There's the vacant piece of property on the backside of the existing facility. That alternate is included in the GMP. Alternate 2 was an option in our correspondence with Pascal and his team. There was a possibility that they could bring additional funding to the table. That was still being vetted and
Right.
not confirmed. So we went ahead and developed a conceptual estimate to either enclose the entire 2 outdoor courts that are adjacent to the new building, and condition that space and essentially give you a larger indoor facility, or alternatively give you a covered option where it's open air on both ends with the large fans overhead for exhaust and circulation. That's alternate 2A, so that's a lesser expensive option. The brick veneer option was an alternate that for Wegman Banks prepared, that we priced, because we were told city this was an option, and they wanted to blend it into the architectural context of City Hall and every other facility that is being built. And then the sports lighting, because the project was we were really trying to find every nook and cranny for the dollars that were available to maximize the amount of building square footage for the indoor facility. you know, we had to look at the lighting for the outdoor courts at the new facility as an alternate, as well as the forecourts. But it sounds like the forecourts were the priority for the lighting. So we were able to fit that alternate number 5 into the GMP as well.
So, you know, just to expand on the stone and brick veneer on the new indoor facility. So one of the things we've talked about is that the city of Zephyrhills has developed a sort of municipal language as it relates to architectural elements. But the other thing is that this particular building is 30 feet from the road. And we're taking down all the trees, essentially, that are between that. So one of the things we talked about, this whole creation of a screen for equipment. So that creates kind of a softening of that, you know, 30 feet in the air. And the other thing is the breakup of materials. So from an architectural standpoint, you know, this is on its way to some nice homes and things like that, that I think that accomplishes something much more than some panels that are painted, you know, that are painted gray, you know, and which is what our other option is. So my question is this $4,994,000,000, is this in addition to the monies that we have budgeted, or is it including the monies we have budgeted?
So it would be, components of it would be in addition. So the $4,755,000 that you see here, it represents the base bid column, your alternate number 1 and your alternate number 5. Now, if we were to add alternate 3, which is the brick veneer, that would be an add to the $4,755,000 of $566,000.
They've already assumed that we're taking that out. It's only 1 and 5. That's all that we're being offered at this juncture.
Well, yeah, staff made, just knowing what the priority was of getting the indoor plus the additional 4 courts, and knowing what the funding amount was that we had, that's the reason for the base bid, alternate 1 and alternate 5.
It would give us 2 courts next to the indoor, right? Is that right?
That's correct.
So it'd be the two outdoor courts, I'm sorry, outdoor next to 1 indoor, and the 4 courts with lights. The 2 courts next to the indoor wouldn't include lights under?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep, you nailed it. Yes, sir.
The 4 courts are on the north side of the property, not on the
Aren't
same
even part of
property.
this project, yeah.
And that would be lighted.
Yes, that is
1 and
on
5.
the
1 and
north
5,
side
yep.
of the north corner lot of the existing SVB campus.
Go back to the building, the base bid.
This one?
No, the one that shows the interior. Yeah, no, that one, yeah. So right now, the light-colored portion up there would be the enclosed building. And the outdoor courts are outdoor courts. But if we enclose outdoor courts, that's number 2, bid number 2.
Alternate, yes, number.
All right, alternate number 2.
Yes.
So if we did that, we wouldn't need alternate number 4 because they'd be enclosed. We wouldn't need the outdoor lighting for them. So that $4.9 million would come down to $107,000? Is that right?
No.
You just wouldn't pick alternate 4.
Well, then the base bid would change to, can you go to the 1? It would be the 3.7, the
791,
the
95.
2,095, and then if you did the outdoor lights at the 4 courts, it would be an initial 210.
Right, no, I'm saying if we enclose the 2 outdoor courts into a building, into that building, then we don't need sports lighting at 2 new outdoor courts.
Correct.
And that's not included in,
It is in this one.
well, no, it's not in the 3.
3.7 just gets you the indoor, and then 2.
I know, I'm
Concrete
saying if we
court.
do the alternates, we save $100,000 on the lighting if we enclose it.
If we were to enclose,
It would be, they're mutually exclusive. So, so in lieu of spending the 107, you would divert those funds to the 2,095,000.
Right. But this adds up to 4.9, so you wouldn't, it would be 4.8, I'm saying, instead of 4.9.
Okay.
But, which means then the difference in that bid price with the alternates is about $139,000?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
The difference then in the alternate the alternate price and that price is $140,000? If you take this.
No, the 3.7 million is the base bid, plus another million, takes it 4.7 million.
Right, so
to
we end up
enclose
with
the
4.9 million minus the 100,000, we're at 4.8.
two different numbers. It would be 7.1, 7.3 million to do the entire project, to enclose, completely enclose
Oh, the
3 court
alternates are
buildings.
just 4.9.
Just the alternate.
Correct, yeah.
All right. Never mind.
The base building is about 11,000 square feet. To enclose it, it's about, those two courts, it adds an additional 15,000 square feet approximately to the building.
But to just enclose it, it goes up to 6.7 million,
Roughly.
roughly.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
So I don't understand how the 4 outdoor courts on the existing SVB campus, why those are even part of this project.
As part of the state appropriation request that we had was to build an indoor facility, and I believe the request was up to 6 outdoor courts. And then we realized that we could only do 4, so it's part of the requirement of the state appropriation.
The 2 courts that are adjacent to the 11,000 square foot building are not,
They're part of the 3.
okay.
They're part of the 3.7.
They're not lit at that price.
But they're not lit at that.
They're not lit, yeah. And well, like Matt said, I feel like we've been at this thing for 5 years now. And there were so many different iterations. There was funding that we thought was additional funding that was available that was taken away, and then there was another funding source, and it was taken away, and this thing's been designed and redesigned probably 3 or 4 times. Yeah, so we went full size, back to small, back to big, and then most recently, Pascal believes he has the funding to finish the project, but timing-wise, on the restrictions that we have, the city has to complete the project for the state appropriation, his funding doesn't line up.
But the appearance of the building, it'll be too late. There won't be any money spent on that. We're just back at the gray and white painted panel.
Correct. Yes,
That's unfortunate.
yes.
What's the total state appropriation again?
Total appropriation was $4.669 million.
Funding from a different source.
From another source, from a
That's allocated
developer.
just for the.
Correct.
Just for the tennis center.
Yes, sir.
And the staff's recommendation is to go with the base bid plus alternates 1 and 5, right?
Correct.
Well, if it's finished discussion, I would move approval of staff's recommendation. Based on budget, that's what we have the money to do, so.
So actually what we're building is the 11,000 square feet is that one indoor court with the other facilities.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
With the potential that Pascal and all of them could, enclose that at some point. I guess that's. You second? Okay. Mayor, did you have anything for discussion on this?
And just, I'm sure that the provisions have been made for lighting for those other courts. It'll just be a matter of getting the lights and
They
put them
have.
up.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We've included provisions to rough in electrical conduit so that
Excellent.
it can be added.
Part of the conversation, it's a very small number compared to the number you see there. But the conversation was, what do we do with that lighting if the plan is to enclose it, and how quickly does that happen? You don't want to spend the money to
That's
then
right.
take it right back out.
Right.
So it's just the rough in at this point.
Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion, I have a motion to second to approve the GMP on the Zephyrhills SVB Indoor Sports Complex.
President, this
Go.
time, I'm just going to
Okay.
make a point for the record that continuing to veer away from this idea, this idea of a municipal architecture and implementation of using materials from building to building is a conscious choice, and that every decision shouldn't be driven by budget. And so for that reason, I'm going to vote against this.
Okay. I do have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Motion passes 3-1. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all.
Good luck. All right.
Can I ask, is there a representative from Gagny here, PUD? Gagny? Oh, okay, all right, never mind.
Okay. All right, that concludes the mayor's emergency items. So we're back on the agenda now, starting with our business items. Business item 2.1, I will turn it over to the city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. President. Business item 2.1 is the second reading of ordinance number 1480-24, ordinance of the City Council of the City of Zephyrhills, Florida, approving a small-scale future land use map amendment to the city's comprehensive plan, changing the future land use classification from PSP, public, semi-public, and MU, mixed use, to RU, residential urban, and amending the city's official zoning map, changing the zoning designation from PUD, Plan Unit Development, and OP, Office Professional, to PUD, Plan Unit Development, for parcel 35 25 21 0010 08500 0010, and a portion of parcel 35 25 21 0010 06900 0020, providing for codification, severability, and an effective date. Again, this is a second reading, and it's a public hearing.
Okay. At this time, for council, did you want Todd to give a brief analysis? I mean, we've seen this several times, I know, but I'm sure we want to make sure we get our points across. So, or we could just save them for questions. Just save them for questions.
I don't know who's new here in the audience. A brief thing might be worth it because
Okay.
somebody here might be here for it that's not familiar.
All right, Todd, if you can give a brief analysis. And again, council has seen this several times at this point, but for those in the audience that may have not seen this.
Sure. I would ask you to go ahead and open the public hearing.
Okay, open a public hearing. All right, at this time,
Keep
I'm
it
going
open
to
until the
open a
vote.
public hearing.
Good evening, Council. Todd Vandenberg, Planning Director for the city. You've heard the request, a petition submitted for a future land use zoning to the PUD. The intent is for multifamily development. I think I'll just try to focus on some of the issues that have been talked about in the plan and report and the subsequent additional hearings where this has been brought before you. One of the key things is the access and traffic improvements that'll be associated with this project. First of all, we had the idea, and it's in the PUD master plan now, with the opportunity to connect to 3 roadways here when this development has occurred. Of course, we'll meet with the future builder if that has come and have a pre-application meeting with them to talk about access for one thing, and that would be access to Wire Road, Purdy Pond, and to Dairy Road, if that works. The preliminary traffic study also reflects a 314-foot right turn lane on Purdy Pond Road, but the conditions, as you recollect, also call for left and right turn lanes in from Purdy Pond and Wire Road as well. We also talked about tree preservation, so there's a condition that was added to the ordinance that you've seen that refers back to city's tree preservation in the land development code that ties the future builder to a tree preservation table. That again, that's another topic that we'll communicate, talk over with future builder. And also there's a condition in there that asks them to work with the grades as much as possible. And I think most of y'all recollect, for the folks that are in the audience, pretty significant grade and the changes of this property from the higher grades being on the west side towards Dairy Road, lower grades on the east side, and the preliminary PUD master plan talked about the shorter buildings, 2-story being on the higher grades and 3 stories being on the lower grades. I think, and there's also some design architectural elements that we'll look at, like we do with all multifamily projects that was talked about. I think that's kind of a quick overview, the summary points that we talked about, and if there is someone in the audience that has additional questions, but that's kind of where we're at right now, till a builder comes on board.
Todd, and can you, I'm sorry, Mr. President, can you tell us transportation-wise what the staff looked at and required on that?
Well, you know, we're conceptually looking at intersection improvement at Pretty Pond Wire Road. That's in final design right now, and we've asked them to, I know John with Utilities is looking at that preliminary design that we have, and of course we'll ask the engineer that's working on that to coordinate with Pasco County. 3 of the 4 legs are county, so they have to get a county right-of-way use permit. And then we looked at, you know, those are 2-lane roads for Dairy, Wire, and Pretty Pond. So the preliminary traffic impact analysis only required a right turn lane from Pretty Pond into the development, but the applicant under the PUD agrees to look at left and right turn lanes on both Pretty Pond Wire Road, where we can, you know, keep the traffic moving on those two-lane roads.
Do you have anything else?
It can be up to 252 units.
That's the maximum. You know, they haven't done final design engineering and, of course, tree preservation, so that number could come down, but that's correct. That is the max.
And of course, we know there is no, but the petitioner, Advent Health, is committed to advising any potential developer of all of the things that we have asked for from all our previous meetings with the trees and some of the other stuff. So, and especially those turning lanes you were referring to. So they are, you know, committed to make sure that they're advising any prospective buyer of that.
And Mr. President, it's also our architectural approval and site plan, right? Is that right? There's some conditions in there?
There's condition in the ordinance on that topic, yes.
Yeah, because we had significant discussion on what we'd like, you know, to see there. So, is there anybody from the audience that is signed up to speak to this?
None have signed up to speak to this item.
Would anybody like to speak to this item? Okay. If not, I'm going to close the public hearing, and council, we can have further discussion or look for a motion.
President, I move approval of business item 2.1.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 1480-24 on this second reading. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, business item 2.2.
Business item 2.2 is the second reading of ordinance number 1482-24, ordinance of the City of Zephyrhills, Florida, annexing additional territory to be included within the boundaries of said city described as 37518 Geiger Road, Zephyrhills, Florida, 33542, in accordance with section 171.044 Florida statutes as amended.
Okay. I'm going to...
Second reading, public hearing as well.
Okay. I'm going to open a public hearing, and same as the previous item, would council like for a brief analysis in order to, for those in the audience that may not have seen it.
Okay, it's a little difficult to see here, but it's on the south side of, Todd Vandenberg, Planning Director for the City of Zephyrhills. Got 2 petitions tonight. One's on the north side, one's on the south side. This is for a little under 4 acres on the south side of Geiger Road, just west of, or east of Wedgwood. That connects 20 acres to the south. But the petition for tonight, as mentioned by the city attorney, is a little under 4 acres. It's only for that 4-acre parcel that's on the south side of Geiger Road for annexation, future land use map amendment to RS, and the zoning category proposed is R3. Connected to property to the south, but again, we're only looking at the subject parcel that's identified on the map tonight, and the overall density, we talked about that, around 7 units per acre. Again, transportation, a lot of discussion about Geiger Road. We've had a lot of communication efforts working with Pasco County, mayor, staff, council members have met with Pasco County staff on Walk Geiger Road, talked about full depth reclamation of Geiger Road. That's supposed to potentially be happening towards the end of this year. They're working on the survey, and then that can get started. As proposed, if the full development builds out, there'll be 3 connectors to this project, including one to 14th Avenue, north side of the elementary school, the bottom right-hand corner there. There's some geotech comments that was brought up on some of this adjoining property. Of course, that'd be something we get into full depth when we look at a future engineered site plan, talk with the geotech folks on that, as well as environmental studies, et cetera.
Okay. This is another project that we've had a lot of discussion on. Some of the same concerns that we are asked the petitioner to be cognizant of. If council wants to weigh in on any of that at this time.
Well, the tree restriction percentage applies here, although it'll be a little more difficult since this is like heavily wooded.
Yeah.
You'll have to do the gopher turtles.
Yes. Environmental report.
all that.
Yeah, and again, I'd like to state that this is in the queue, we call it, from a water use standpoint. We've also notified the applicant owner on both projects on Geiger Road here about the water source ordinance, so they're aware of that. So that's something we're doing with all developments now, and make sure we're in compliance with that.
And Todd, is that where we were saying basically that we're not guaranteeing the availability of water under our current water use permit, right?
Correct.
Okay, and they understand that.
Yep.
And there was a lot.
And that applies for the previous project as well, right?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, all these are not falling under the moratorium because they're already in the pipeline, but we are, as you stated, we're not guaranteeing that they'll have the water under the current water permit, so. And then we had a lot of discussion about Geiger Road, which, the county is already budgeted to redo that in the upcoming year. Is that correct?
That's what we've been told, latest correspondence from the county engineer for the full depth reclamation. They're looking also for some safety improvement dollars that'll provide a protected edge to make it safer, as well as some RPMs put on the edge of the road to signify before you go off the lane, so some safety measures, maybe included a signalized crosswalk. And if you remember, the developer owner is in agreement to work with us in the county making the connection of a multi-purpose trail sidewalk on Geiger Road to also make it safer.
I can just clarify that safety edge is like 6 inches to a foot wide. It's not a bike lane, because I thought that's what it was, but I was told it's like a 6 inch to 12 inch, just a slope so you don't have that hard drop off if a car does veer off the roadway.
Okay.
Is there any opportunity for a sidewalk if that road gets shifted or anything like that?
Well, that's why I think we've kind of had some preliminary conversations with Pasco County. Once a survey is completed, then yeah, we want to look at that and try to maximize where that road gets built to maximize the opportunity, and look at that concurrently on where the sidewalk trail could be. Ideally, probably it'd be on the north side, because we're going to have north side trail at the cottage, Silver Oaks Village cottages, and then you have sidewalk trail on the other bookend. So if we could keep it on that side, there's right-of-way limitations, constraints, but we'll look at that once that survey is complete.
And this is a open with public hearing at the moment, and is anybody signed to speak up to this?
Yes, I have a Norman Shireman signed up to speak to this item.
All right. You just come over here and sign up with the city clerk. Come forward, Norman, state your name and address for the record, please, and you have 3 minutes once he starts the clock.
Norman Sherman, 37604 Geiger Road. Y'all know my concerns. My family and I have been before you in the previous committees. Just a couple of things. I'm not going to get into the details that we've gotten to in the previous meetings, but we have some concerns still. And at the end of the day, you've expressed the same concerns. And many of you have spoken to me individually. We've spoken via email. And then the committee prior to it coming to this point, we've spoken with them also, expressed our concerns. The big thing is that at the end of the day, two main things besides what I've already stated prior about water, geological issues and whatnot, and traffic. Our concern also lies in the fact that if this property is sold to another developer or to another landowner, we can't hold them to whatever agreements is made here today, because then it's a new property owner. I mean, I think I'm correct in that. If I agree to something today and I sell it to somebody else, they can tell me, well, we're only going to do this. My concern is it's going to get sold. Okay?
The conditions will run with the land.
All of the conditions? Different agreements that have been made if there's an HOA? I mean, that's the thing. That can't be.
Yeah, just what's
We've talked in the past about various options, and some of the options that I've been told can't be legally held up. But with that being said, whether one way or the other, I implore you to think about this. It's not a popular decision. If you vote for annexation, you vote for zoning, you vote for 170 plus townhomes. At the same time, there's going to be 170 or 80 townhomes going on about 600 yards from this one. Not at the same time, but they're going to come online very close to each other. I don't care what the traffic numbers show from the experts. I know what the traffic is because I live there. It took me 2.5 light cycles this morning to go to school. The last two statements that I have to make is this. Besides the other concerns with the geological, we just had a rain event and we were having issues in some places. I'm not sure how much I trust an engineer or a geological individual that's being paid for by someone that is developing the land personally. And that's a big issue, because if I'm getting a home inspected or evaluated or valued, I'm pretty sure they're going to go swing my way so that I can get that bank number that I need. If I'm hiring a geological company to come do it, they're going to maybe bend or give a little, or maybe not do the right thing. So that's, with what's going on right now, that's another concern. The last statement that I have is this. Make the decision that you need to make, but all I ask is that this is a decision that you're willing to live with, because you're going to force my family to eventually leave. There's too many townhomes that are going to come on one road in the matter of the next 5 years. So with that being said, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Norm. And you're correct, and a lot of us have some of the same concerns that you guys have, and that was why I was looking for some kind of solutions on the being sold and potential, rental units and things like that. So, and we will continue to explore that. But as City Manager stated, a lot of the conditions that we spoke of will go with the project, right? As far as
the conditions that are in the ordinance.
In ordinance is correct.
Will run with the land, and
with the trees, and
whatever owner in the future purchase it will be subject to those conditions.
Okay. So,
I don't know what agreements.
well, I don't know that it was any agreements. It was more of a guideline for the petitioner to work with.
I think it was to avoid rental.
last meeting. Some of it was going to have to be lived by, and some of it was suggestions to the current owner of the land, and then that, if it changes hands, the suggestions go out the window, correct?
Well,
You're talking about the agreements like to sell and not rent and things like that?
No, well, I mean, that's going to fall under the
Yeah,
HOA,
yeah,
correct?
that way.
But that's one concern, but the other concern was that we understand the water situation now, how nothing can really be done until
right.
it's there. But the question that we also had with it was, when it gets sold to another developer, yes, that developer has to live by these set rules, but the question was other things that have been promised, well, we're going to drop the total number of units. I mean, they could come back and present a different plan, and then the number could jump back up.
Well, they're tied to the zoning, which only allows so many units per acre.
7 units
They
per
dropped
acre.
the number.
And then they drop the number, but in terms of, the number will actually be determined by the size of retention required and roads, and
but
so it could still drop.
If I'm correct, I'm just using rough numbers, and again, it's just rough numbers. We were talking originally somewhere in the ballpark between the two projects, 180 to 210. I mean, somewhere in there. And then the number kind of dropped down to the 170-ish, 160 mark. But theoretically, they could come right back if they sold, and the next person could go, well, the 200 is still in play because it falls under what our numbers.
No, because the R3 zoning is 7 units per acre. So, right, or 7.
Right, but there's 20, if you count the property that they own, the green property with the pond / sinkhole, that
We can only
property right there is between, when they add that and the Maggard property, that is set,
Right.
to 170, 180
But-
units. And then the property just west is set for like 32 to 36.
Well, what's going to happen is, as they stated, that whatever's an ordinance, they definitely have to abide by. They still will have to come before us with bring the
site
same
plan or
projects to
whatever.
us, and we can still bring up all of those same concerns and some of the stuff that we discussed. And, like you said, with water retention, with the trees, with that pond that's back there and stuff, I mean, they probably will be restricted to what we've tried to work our way to.
Right.
Like I said,
I think that 24 times 7 is 168, so they can't go over that in terms of.
Right, it's
so
that
even
particular property, but I'm also counting, I think it was 2.4 or whatever the property is. It's on
Across the
hearing
street?
tonight. So I'm counting both properties
okay.
because it's going to go on at the same time because they're both going on right now.
Well, irregardless, I mean, they're
Yeah.
going to build it, and the developer's going to try to do what they
Right.
can.
Well, I'm just trying to do my stewardship, one, as a resident, but two, as a person that has to endure the constant traffic that's going to come from 2 of the 3 entrances that are on Geiger Road.
right.
2
And
of the 3 entrances are on that road.
Right next to you.
right. And, and I would
Right
encourage.
smack in the middle of it. And that's the problem I think that most people are going to have. I know there's other people that are going to speak that live down the street.
Right, and-
Unsolicited. I didn't go solicit her. And
Okay, Norm, let's get to the other people. But I will encourage you if and when somebody comes back before us, come up and bring all these same concerns, because we'll be having the same discussions with the potential builder in there anyway. So,
yeah,
but
I might be gone by then. So.
I hope not. We like you, Norm. All right, who signed up next?
I have Brian Dion.
Brian Dion. Okay. Just state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Evening, Council. Brian Dion, Johnson Pope, 400 North Ashton Street, Tampa. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. A couple very quick points. I'm going to echo most of the things that staff has said today. Just to address really quickly, based on the conditions and the density that we currently are looking for. Currently, we are zoned at 9 dwelling units per acre. We're asking for less, not more. That's something that I do want to put out there, that we are looking to work with the city on this matter, because we think that it's important to have, a copacetic relationship with the city and my client is able to work on that relationship and provide, that mutual benefit to each other, so that we can develop a site that makes sense with the direction the city's going in, and then also stay within the confines of what the city has to offer. which I think we're asking for 7.3 dwelling units per acre, which brings us to right to 200 between the two properties, the one on the north and the one on the south of Geiger. To quickly address Geiger Road itself, obviously we're not improving it ourselves, but we have taken, we've been involved with the discussions. We understand that it is improving. We're developing the sidewalk along the road, not only for our property, but all the properties that are able to be brought into that conversation, which, obviously we can't tell other property owners what to do, but we are still here to benefit the road and the usage of the road, because we do understand that there is a great need for some sort of public pedestrian access there. And approvals and site plan approvals, as the gentleman said, if we want to put more properties on there, we have to come back to you guys and ask for it. And you're going to ask that question, why are you asking for more now? So we have no problem, moving forward as we have requested and as staff has recommended. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have a question for him?
Well, just to clarify, I think the 9 units per acre is a county designation. 7 units per acre is our designation. So when you annex in, you'll be limited at 7 per acre.
Correct, yeah.
7.5?
7.5.
Yes, so it is higher as by right now.
Right.
But we're going to be asking for the 7.5. We're going down.
All right.
Thank you.
And you stated that that was going to equate to about 200, because I think that was a number Norm was trying to get at. It was the total number of units.
properties.
Total number between the two, yes. Yes, I think
Okay.
it's 170 and 30. My client's here if he wants to.
Okay.
68.
That sounds right.
All right. Thank you. Is someone else?
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
I don't have anyone else to signed up. for
Anybody
this
else want to
particular item.
speak? You'll have to come up and state your name and address.
Did you mean to sign up for this item?
I just state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Tina Smith, 5945 Plaza View Drive, and I am on the corner of Geiger. I'm going to piggyback a lot of what Coach spoke about. Geiger Road from end to end is 3/4 of a mile. The concern and safety I have of the buildings being put on there, we have coaches, we have teachers, we have seniors living on here. My grandbabies play in my yard on the corner. I had to put up bushes many years ago because my neighbor showed me tracks going directly to my house off of this road. My neighbor gets up and walks. She's in her 80s. Phenomenal lady. Her husband is an astrophysicist, just passed this past year. She used to pick up trash all along there. She has scraped up many dead animals to keep this road nice. She was walking across, and because this road is 30, 35 miles an hour and people don't abide by it and there is nobody to monitor it, she walks probably about 5 o'clock in the morning, just getting across the road. Had to go so fast. I mean, the lady did aerobics. She tripped and broke her hip, and nobody stopped to help her. This lady is a member of our community and has been for multiple years. I've been in my house for 25 years. This road has not been paved in 25 years. And if you pave the road, because of the light at the end, 50 is going to turn into 60 and 65. And we're not just going to have dead animals, we're going to have dead people. And I have known multiple people down this road that, just like Coach, has moved because they can't even back out of their house. I've seen one house go up for sale 3 times because they can't back out of their house to get, just to leave to go to the corner store. There are so many transients that walk up and down this road. There's no sidewalks, there's no lights. I have a huge concern about putting that many more townhomes for traffic alone. I have been unfortunate in not being able to attend a lot of these meetings, new job, so I will be at, you'll see my face a little bit more, and I appreciate you indulging my passion about this road, because I'm like Coach. I'm 2 steps away from selling a house that I've been at for 25 years, longest house I've ever been in my life. And I'm ready to give it up because of this road. And if you want to just knock down all the houses, put a bunch of townhomes in, you're going to lose a lot of the community that you're trying to save. The trees, the people. So thank you.
Right. Thank you. Is there anybody else? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing and just open to the council for discussion. If anybody has anything further.
I just wanted to just kind of say a couple of things to address a couple of things that she's saying. I live on that road too. I understand, right? I know. You see me on that road every day. So this is a county road. So the city's not been able to update this road, okay? Because it is a. No, so that is a county road. So that's why we've been working with the county, and none of these projects, we didn't want them to even come close to moving forward till we knew that road was going to be paved, and we're going to work hard to get, I'm going to fight as much as I can to get a crosswalk across, to get lighting on that road, to get safety features on that road. I've already asked the county to reduce the speed limit, because it makes no sense that it goes 3/4 of a mile and you got 35 and 30. Makes no sense. So we're going to work hard to make sure that we put every safety feature we can on that road, because yes, I understand exactly what you're saying. I lived there too, and it's a hard one. It's very difficult. So thank you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for speaking your heart. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm just going to piggyback onto what you said, Mayor. That road, and we had a meeting, when was it, in February or March, with county officials. We walked that road, and they had a report that noted the cars were going way too fast on it. They speed. That's another thing. And a lot of the traffic there is not traffic from the road, but it's traffic cutting through to get to 301. But what we had noticed on there was the traffic was going too fast. And obviously, I think if we resurface it, it's going to go faster. That's what I think. So we're trying to do some traffic calming, any traffic calming we can along the road. And we had talked about a chicane in it that would move the traffic and slow you down. But I think the biggest thing is getting the pedestrians off of that road with a sidewalk. And that's what we're requiring of the developer of this property, is to basically engineer and help pay for a sidewalk along there, which we need to have. Because I cut through on that road too. I've used it all my life. But I've come up on that road when people are walking in the middle of the road at the middle of the night in black, and almost hit them. It's very, very dangerous. So I think that was one of the things that really made me want to move forward with this project, is the sidewalk. Another thing is it has 3 different means of ingress and egress, and there's not too many projects this size, which is relatively small, that have that many ingress and egress points. The other thing that I thought of is for our younger families, they would be able to actually purchase one of these townhomes and walk to the elementary school, walk their kids to and from the elementary school. So there's a lot of different things that we look at, but those are the things that sold me personally on going ahead and moving forward with this project.
And of course, we all hear the concerns. We all have the same concerns. I use Geiger Road a lot myself too. But unfortunately, we make a decision that it's based on everybody that's involved, including the property owner's rights. And one of the things that, like you said, we're talking about helping with the road, but with it being in the city, we're going to have a little more say in what happens, because if it remained in the county, they could put more units in there.
9 per acre.
So we're trying to do the best we can, basically, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is trying to meet everybody's concerns and not, infringe on property rights of the property owners either. So that's why there's a lot of discussion that goes into this. So that's what makes the decision really hard for us too, because we get it. And I get all those concerns. Yes, go ahead.
I think, the comments you've made about, the changing community really hits home, because In fact, I talked to Todd and Billy today, and I've asked us to set up I think we need to schedule a visioning session. And Todd said he's getting ready to do that with the Land Development Code comprehensive plan. And we're trying to set that up in September and October because, sometimes I feel that we have the cart before the horse, and, all these projects are changing the face of the community. And I think another way we're ahead of the game is, I think we made a mistake when we did the moratorium, when we let people in a queue. I think if we don't have the water permit, we shouldn't be approving anything until we do. And so again, I think, I don't know how to get out of this predicament.
Well, I think we're coming to the end of that. We've extended the moratorium. And, if you think about the fact that 1,000 people moved into the city limits of Zephyrhills last year, and we will probably approve another 1,000 units in the queue, right? So,
Right, but
but at that point, the gate closes, right? In theory, the gate closes, because if we don't have the worked out, if we don't have the water permit worked out, and the moratorium is in place, these last few little townhome projects, I think, are filling in that missing middle. Not everyone can afford a $300,000 house. These townhomes, in theory, are fulfilling a need that we have for our existing residents. But, I see your point. I mean, it's not an easy decision, but isn't that really what we're doing, closing the gate?
See it closing myself.
Well,
Somebody's foot in the
If
door,
we're not
keeping
approving multifamily housing projects.
Just approved one, yeah.
Here's the problem too, and I agree with you. We can close the gate in Zephyrhills. However,
Yes.
there's 40,000 entitled units down there to the south of us on 301 right now. We can't do anything about that. There's another 40 in the connected cities up there that we cannot do anything about. They're going to come through the streets in our city. So the only thing we can do is try and establish as good a relationship with the county as we can and work as hard as we can to keep our roads ahead of it. And that's going to be a task too.
Okay. Well, you're right.
There's no easy answer, that's
No,
for sure,
no.
because there's
Yeah.
1,200 people a day still moving to Florida.
Yeah.
We can't stop that, yeah.
I know, and I feel for the residents that have single-family homes, and looking at the map, it's easy to see. I've been down a couple of those side streets there too. But then I look at the Driftwood project and some of the other ones that are already high density, and I mean, that's what makes it difficult for us, is how can we say no to one and yes to another? We got to try and be consistent. I just like the fact that decisions going to be made here instead of at the county level, where there could potentially be many more units. And then, we're going to be here to hear the concerns too, and try to alleviate most of them the best we can. All right, so I have closed the public hearing. At this point, the council's pleasure.
Well, and Mr. President, I think you're right, because I don't think the county would give as much consideration to this project and Geiger Road as we have in the whole process. I don't think that they would have said, hey, make sure there's a sidewalk on it, or make sure there's proper lighting or a crosswalk. So I feel like we're doing a greater service to the area than if it was done in the county.
And I echo that, because it wasn't on their radar for another 5 years.
Oh.
And it took us pushing to tell them that this had to be done, period. It had to be done, period. So, yeah, we're just going to have to keep pushing and pushing on the roads and making sure that we are in the ear of our county commissioners as they box us in too.
When do you expect to hear about the water use permit?
So I got an update today that the draft submittal that we submitted, I think 2 weeks ago, Brian, and I don't remember his last name. Hey, thank you. Brian Zane said that we should have comments back tomorrow. So we'll work through, I don't know what those comments are, so we'll work through those comments, make our formal submittal. Well, we'll get the comments back tomorrow so we can go over those.
Address them then?
Correct.
So we really don't have a time frame right now.
No, I don't at this moment.
Okay, and again, I thank those that spoke to this item. I encourage you to stay involved. If a project ever does move forward, I mean, there's no guarantee that anything could happen for several years anyway, so we don't know that yet. But I do encourage you to remain involved in it, for sure. And again, Council.
Right, and the other thing that I would say is that, again, it's the same guarantee that we currently are at the top of our water use permit. Until we have the water use permit increase, it's not going to happen,
No
right?
projects are
Am
gonna
I
be
right or
approved.
not? Okay, okay. With that, I'll go ahead and approve this project, again, with all the stipulations that have been said.
And I'll second the second reading of ordinance number 1482-24.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 1482-24 on a second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. And we're going on to business item 2.3, which is, I'm going to call it a sister project to the one we just discussed. So all of the same things we just said will apply to this too.
That's correct, Mr. President. 2.3 is the second reading of ordinance number 1483-24, ordinance of the City of Zephyrhills, Florida, proposing an amendment to the city's comprehensive plan, providing for a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use map, changing from Pasco County Res 9 to RS Residential Suburban, and the zoning designation from Pasco County R4 to City R3 Medium Density Residential, described as 37518 Geiger Road, Zephyrhills, Florida 33542, providing for codification, severability, and an effective date. This is a second reading and a public hearing. And like you said, the first was annexation, and then this is changing the zoning and future land use for that same project.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. Has anyone signed up to speak?
Norman Sherman has.
Okay. Norm, just, okay, can I say that you were just stating all your concerns in the previous item are the same for this one? Okay. And I'll just restate what I said before I open a public hearing and what the city attorney did too, that all of the same exact things we just spoke about are all, concerns and everything apply to this particular ordinance too. Right, but I mean, all of what we discussed, so. And I will do it on the next one too, so. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. Council?
I'd move approval of this item, Mr. President.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 1483-24 on the second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. All right, business item 2.4.
Business item 2.4 is the second reading of ordinance number 1485-24, ordinance of the City of Zephyrhills, Florida, annexing in additional territory to be included within the boundaries of said city, described as parcel number 0326210010 11700 0020, Zephyrhills, Florida 33542, in accordance with section 171.044 Florida statutes as amended. This is second reading and public hearing.
Okay, at this time I'm going to open a public hearing, and I'm going to ask Todd if he can give us a quick, or Rodney, I'm sorry. Rodney could give us a quick analysis on this one.
Good evening, Council. Rod Corvo, Principal Planner, Mayor. All of the issues germane to the previous agenda item are pertinent to this agenda item as well. It's 4.155 acres. It's on the north side of Geiger Road. The zoning is proposed to be R3, and then the land use is proposed to be residential suburban, which makes it out to be approximately 30 to 31 townhome units, similar to what's on the other side of the street. All the same conditions that Todd spoke about and you all talked about in the previous agenda item are the same. as well as the water, that we may or may not have water at the time of the certificate of occupancy. I just want to talk a brief minute about the other part of that, which is the Florida Water Star program, which we're requiring all applicants to go through, and that includes the interior of the units and the exterior. So not only do they have to be Water Star compliant and energy efficient for refrigerators, your toilets, showers, things like that, the landscaping and the irrigation system also has to be. For example, rather than St. Augustine, Bahia is encouraged, and then there's a certain amount of the lawn that actually can be irrigated as well. So there are strict regulations on that side to get us up to the water conservation standards that we all need to be at, not only in this community, we're on the forefront, but the entire state of Florida, because as you discussed, we've got 1,000 people, 1,200 people moving to the state every day, and it's really hard to just shut the exits or the interiors off on that, so the entrances. With that, let's see. The applicant's representative is here, and if you have further questions, I'm here as well.
All right, thank you, Rodney.
Yes.
Do we have anybody sign up to speak to this?
Norman Sherman is.
Okay. Okay. I have, yes. Again, you'll have to restate your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Restate it.
Pardon me, just restate your name and address for the record.
Tina Smith, 5945 Plaza View Drive. I feel the coach, and I'm sitting back here and I'm listening, and I wish I could have been in all the other meetings, but I'm telling you now, I'm not into a lot of how things are built and how they're created. I see everything going up, and I'm like, okay. But I'm telling you, and I know things shift. We live in Florida. We're about to break off into an island before you know it. I promise you, we're going to be off in the ocean somewhere. My property over the last 25 years, and my neighbors, I've watched. You talk about getting people water. I'm talking about my ceiling has shifted. My driveway has shifted. My sidewalks have shifted. We got our road done not too long ago, and we have a private road, and it's gone back down to the same dips. I mean, you're asking to put more houses on land that can't hold more houses. I don't know how to better put it. I could sit there, and if I would have prepared something, I would have sounded a little bit more eloquent than I am right now. But I just wanted to make it here today. You guys, seriously, I'm highly opposed to it. I'm just saying, and I'm going to sit there just like him, and I understand why he's sitting back there because he's been up here so many times. But I'm highly opposed to putting that many more houses in this small of an area, especially pulling out water. We don't have water. I don't even use a sprinkler. I mean, I borrowed my neighbor's with city water just when my granddaughter had a birthday party a couple weeks ago because I didn't want to use my well. There's no water out there. And you want to put more houses and put them Energy Star. Not acceptable to me. I'm sorry. And that's just my other 2 cents.
All right.
Coach didn't want to talk, so I'm just saying.
Thank you for your comments. Council, any questions? Or is there somebody else signed up?
We're going to close the hearing, or, yeah.
That's signed up for this item.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm going to close the public hearing. We can discuss. So I'll close the public hearing at this time.
you know, I mean, you run for office and then you kind of complain that you have to sit up here and do this. You know, I mean, people have property rights as well, so you have to try to balance that. And, you know, I'm of the understanding really that unless there is a legal binding reason, it's hard, it's hard to vote against this right to do this in a zoned area that's within the city that is allowed to build under that. And that's why I'm saying we need to revisit the moratorium. We need to have a visiting session. We talked last meeting about not doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So, until we sit down and do those things, we're going to be faced with these kinds of problems. And I hope we can do them sooner than later. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
And Mr. President, Councilman Spina brings up a really good point. These property owners are working within the rules and the framework which we established them to develop property upon. They sometimes go above and beyond by agreeing to do different things, putting in sidewalks, adding turn lane, and things which are good for the area. But nobody, as long as my family came to this area in 1837, and everybody has always said they didn't want any more people. I always want this cow pasture next to me. I would love to have that. And it's great. That's great. But somebody owns that property. It changes hands. Then somebody has to sell it or they develop it. And that's just the way Florida's always been. It's always happened that way. When the people were moving down to Miami, the people hated them coming there, okay? So some of the Miamians moved up to this area. Now we don't like them coming up here, It's the same thing. It's the same thing that happens. But I think that's what makes, I personally think that's a diverse community is just a wonderful thing. I really think that. And I think that, like Councilwoman Wilkerson said, it's providing housing for some people who cannot afford it. They can't afford a $350,000 starter home. So maybe these come in at $275,000, which is still a lot of money. Let's face it, it's a lot of money, but it's less than the $350,000. So these are, and it's tough. It's tough to sit up here and make decisions. And I agree with a lot of the stuff that's said. So we filter and decipher it and try and make the best decision that we can with the information we're given. And it's not an easy thing. It's really not an easy thing. But
we're the ones that I'm pushing my cart through Walmart and people are coming up and talking to me every Saturday morning. So, I think that the county makes decisions in a different way. They have a different source of water, this Tampa Bay water, and so they don't have some of the limitations we have. So when they have, 9 units per acre versus 7 units per acre, that's an issue that we have to fight for. Here's what we have to offer. We have very well-educated, reasonable, and intelligent planning staff that's accessible to some of these developers. Our infrastructure, we're staying on top of all of that. And so I think that, I'd like to say no, but I'm counting on the county to do what they promised they're going to do with the roads. And in the past, they've been honest with me. Our representatives have been honest with me. I can pick up the phone and call them and they say, we're going to work on that. And then the other side of that is that we can ask for more for our residents if we're controlling the process. So that's why I don't shy away from allowing a developer to come to us, because I can count on Chad or someone else that's a developer partner with our city. And so they'll do what they say they're going to do for the most part. I think that's always the case.
And I think, as the mayor stated, because of the discussions we're having on this and the things that we're trying to address, the county, there was nothing really in the plans for at least 5 years on that road. And because of all of this, we've kind of expedited that a little bit. And hopefully it'll be, in this next year, within this next year, we have the Geiger Road improvements. I'm not saying for sure, but, it's definitely going to be closer than it would have been if, we didn't have these discussions. So I have closed the public hearing and I turn it over to council.
Mr. President, I move to approve item 2.3, is that right? Ordinance
2.4.
2.4, ordinance number 1485-24.
I'll second.
I have motion second to approve ordinance number 1485-24 on the second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. 2.5.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2.5 is the second reading of ordinance number 1486-24, ordinance of the City of Zephyrhills, Florida, proposing an amendment to the city's comprehensive plan providing for a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use map, changing from R1 MH Pasco County to RS Residential Suburban, and the zoning designation from Pasco County RMH to City R3 Medium Density Residential for approximately 4.155 acres of real property having parcel ID number 0326210010 117000020, providing for codification, severability, and an effective date. And this is a public hearing. It's the same property as the most recent passed ordinance just prior.
Okay, I'll open up the public hearing at this time. Again, as stated, this is the ordinance, sister ordinance to the one we just did, so all of the same discussion that Rodney had gone through and that we have stated still applies. Has anybody signed to speak to this?
Norman has signed up to speak to this.
And Norm is going to get us 3 minutes.
Norm Sherman, Zephyrhills, Florida, 37604 Geiger Road. Final statement is this. I know it's going to pass. It's going to happen. I ask this. We've had the discussion for the last 3 meetings plus the committee meeting. Whatever you do, it's been said that you want to try to figure out how to control, not necessarily growth, but measure the growth and do it in a smart way. Do it. Don't wait. Now is the time to do it while it's still fresh in your memory and you remember all the time I've wasted the last umpteen meetings coming up here griping. Please do it, because if I'm going to have 200 and some townhomes around me coming out of, between my houses, I want it to be for a reason so that the next person doesn't. Or we're going to be back up here again and other people will be complaining and it's going to be the same thing. And what was it Einstein said? The definition of stupidity or whatever was, or crazy, is doing the same thing over and over again. Insanity. Let's not do it. Thank you. I was a PE major. I'm not smart. But let's fix it now. So in a couple months, if you start, staff gets together with council and come up with ways that we can measure. Because I don't think what's come of this, 200 townhomes is a lot. You got 10 townhomes down here on the one-way. You got, I don't know, I'm guessing 75 down by the high school, something like that. I mean, we've had townhomes. We have apartments popping up. There's a beautiful apartment complex in the middle of Publix. I don't see it full. That's affordable housing to some people. So, just my final statement is please do something sooner than later. Because if we keep putting this off, this is all for naught. And it'll just be one more angry citizen or one more person, because I'll say something to y'all later. Just going to be one more person. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Norm. And all valid points. Appreciate you taking the time to come up and speak. And like I said, we'll always welcome you here. And I know I'll see you a couple weeks at the football game. You can tell me again. So, but thanks again, Norm. I really do. You don't know how many times we come up here and nobody speaks on anything. So really, for him to come out and Tina, was it, to come out and speak?
Tina.
We really appreciate your concerns and just know that we take them to heart and we're just making the best decision we can for everything involved. And anybody else signed up?
Not for this item.
Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing and council.
Mr. President, I move approval of item 2.5.
I'll second.
Motion is second to approve ordinance number 1486-24 on a second reading. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney.
Next item is business item 2.6. It is the second reading of ordinance number 1489-24. Ordinance of the City of Zephyrhills, Florida, approving a rezoning PUD Plan Unit Development Master Plan Amendment to the Gagney-Chansey Road Plan Unit Development for the property identified as 3356 Paul S. Buckman Highway, Zephyrhills, Florida, 33540, providing for codification, severability, and an effective date.
All right.
This is a public hearing.
This is a public hearing. At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. And Todd, did you just want to give us a quick overview or?
Todd Vandenberg, Planning Director, City. Yeah, here we got, you've heard the presentation. We refer to this property as the Gagney PUD, Plan Unit Development. They've submitted a petition for a modification or amendment to the PUD. That amendment would allow the area in brown there to develop as an indoor storage facility. We do have a moratorium on indoor storage facilities, but this was submitted prior to the adoption of that moratorium ordinance. The remainder of the property, you got some wetlands there and stormwater pond. So to build this, they have to amend the PUD master plan. If you choose to approve the PUD master plan amendment, then they would come back with an engineered site plan that would look something like you see on the screen today, but a full engineered civil set of plans that, along with landscape and irrigation plans. So staff, the Planning Commission has reviewed the amendment requests, felt like we were supportive of the PUD amendment. The proposed use, which would be tied to the PUD, would not generate a lot of traffic trips at this major intersection of the southeast corner of State Road 39 in Chansey. It's also not a very big water user as an indoor storage facility. We've conceptually looked at enhancing the perimeter buffer on this project. We've also getting creative with the retention with potential rain gardens. We're going to be asking them at the engineered site plan to have a little easement there to right at the corner to have a little gateway entryway treatments for signage for our industrial corridor that's taken off now. So just one access there off of Chansey Road. I have to come down.
All right, thank you. Has anyone signed to speak to this item?
No, not to this item.
Anybody wish to speak to this item? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing. And council for discussion or a motion.
Move we approve ordinance number 1489-24 on its second reading.
I'll second.
I have a motion to second to approve ordinance number 1489-24 on the second reading. Is there any further discussion before we vote?
Oh, I just want to point out one thing that Mr. Vandenberg didn't point out, and that is that we don't have very many calls for the police department to come to the storage unit. So there you go. That's a win.
Okay, so I had a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thanks again, Todd. And now, Planning Director's report. So I guess you're back with us.
Todd Vandenberg, Planning Director. We have two items that we want to present this evening on our planning report. The first is a petition that's been submitted for a conditional use, requesting an increase in height of the maximum allowable building height for a light industrial zone parcel of land from 30 feet or 2 stories to a maximum that they're requesting of 63 feet in order to accomplish some of the manufacturing equipment that we'll get into. We have a PowerPoint presentation that we're going to present to you to provide the details of the location and need for that height. The proposed use for the property is food manufacturing plan for Baduco. They've also submitted their engineered site plan that we're beginning to review, but before that, they've gone through the conditional use petition that we're bringing forth tonight for again, the height. The property will be developed in several phases, with the first phase of construction being administrative building and 156,000 square foot of manufacturing, along with their parking, stormwater, and utility facilities. Then there'll be a future phase that'll include a small retail building near the corner of 6th Avenue and Chansey, and the remaining phases expanding administration and manufacturing buildings. Some of the product equipment includes equipment that will be requiring that additional height in the building for purposes of the manufacturing. And of course, the main thing that we look at with height is the with this proximity to the airport is dealing with the FAA. They've already gone through the FAA, and they provide them with the allowance of a maximum height of 63 feet, which the conditional use petition is for. There's also 8 standards of criteria that we review from our Land Development Code, Part 11.10, and our city's Land Development Code, which we feel the applicant has satisfied. And again, the key being the height through FAA in regards to the city's airport. Now, I think we have a PowerPoint, if we could bring up. And then I'll ask if the applicant as a representative, they can make the presentation on the PowerPoint.
Good evening. My name is Greg Crawford. I'm with Florida Engineering Group at 5127 South Orange Avenue in Orlando, Florida. And here to go ahead and answer any questions you have. But for a presentation first, we can kind of go through the site plan and kind of look at what we have there. Oh, here. So the project's located at the southwest corner of Chansey and 6th Avenue. It's approximately about 72 and a half acres on it. It's currently a vacant land. Used to be pasture land on it. Overall, we've got the overall site plan that we show here. The area shown in red is phase 1, or roughly about 160,000 square foot of manufacturing area. Actually, it's going to be a mix of manufacturing and also some of the warehouse to start off with. As you can see up there at the corner on the upper left corner is the future retail, about a 6,000 square foot. And then we show some future expansion that'll be for some expanded future manufacturing, and then also some administration down on the south end of the property. I guess it'd be the west end, but on the bottom of the sheet, and then also additional parking to accommodate that. This is more of the site plan, a little more detailed with regards to the same layout. It's got the overall 160,000 square foot building, shows the future retail up on the north and the future admin on the west on that. This also shows an area that we've got for the runway that comes in kind of diagonal across the property. We've kind of moved everything out away from that as far as development-wise, as far as buildings, in order to comply with any of the airport requirements for height restrictions, et cetera, on that. Basically, the red cross-hatched area is an area that, other than really the pond, we can't really do anything in there. And then the rest of it, we can build up to a certain point with regards to trees and lighting, but we'll review all that during the actual site plan review. This is the retail that's going to be up near the actual intersection of 6th and Chansey. We'll show you a little bit later with regards to what that building's going to look like to kind of show the presentation on the look. And then again here, this is where it shows the overall building heights. It's going to be a mix between 42-foot high buildings and also the 63-foot. As you can see, the 63-foot is up sort of on the north end of the building there to your left, the future expansions. And then the remaining portion of the buildings will be 42 feet for the manufacturing, and then lower obviously for the retail and the administration building at 20. As mentioned, we've gone through and actually presented these heights over to the FAA in order to make sure it's fine for where it's located relative to the flight path coming in for the runways. And we have letters for that we presented to the city that shows that that's been approved up to 63 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to the architect, and he'll go through and kind of describe a little bit with regards to the buildings themselves.
Good evening. I'm Toby Walker, president of Walker Design and the architect of record for the Baduco facility. Currently, we are going to go into permit review for phase 1, which is the 160,000 square foot. We are also currently under contract for phase 2, which has been demonstrated in the previous slides, which would take this 160,000 square foot up to just under 400,000 square foot. And then we also have the 2 out parcel buildings that I'm going to demonstrate and show to you guys here today as well, which is the retail facility up on the corner of Chansey and 6th, as well as the standalone administrative facility. The overall 160,000 square foot justified north is to the left is all the raw goods and finished product. Towards the middle is the production facility, packaging, and then on the right side is administrative offices, staff support, as well as building support. We've painted some pictures here to help with the review and approval process, just taking into consideration. It is a pre-engineered metal building, and we are trying to figure out what we can do to make it a little more aesthetically pleasing for, this primary corridor. So utilizing multiple colors, punched openings to get natural light into the facility, some metal panels that indicate the branding color for Paducah, kind of highlighting the administrative offices and visitor interface. Some out parcel elements that are for shading and, allowing the staff to get outside, have lunches, things of that nature. The other side, this is the corner that really faces Chancey and 6th, and this is the incoming raw good, outgoing finished product side of the building. It is dock high, so we have an elevated building in this area with obviously accessible access and some branding components, and then again the punched openings to create a rhythm on the building instead of just a plain blank facade. The next portion is the retail store, which we've kind of talked about previously. The retail store is going to be a nice amenity. It's not only a retail store, but there's also a cafe with a dining area, an outdoor terrace. So we're really looking at, introducing Paducah to the community and providing a place for coffee, small bites, things of that nature as well, on top of the retail store. So this is the view from the corner, if you can imagine, standing at the corner of 6th and Chancey. This is kind of that overall view. A really branded, piece, something that we think will be a nice site amenity, and really introduce people to the brand. You can see the Casa Paducah, which is the cafe amenity piece to this retail store. You can see the large production facility in the background as well.
What was the size of that building about? Square footage?
About 3,000 square foot.
6.
6,000 square foot.
Thank you.
Some views of the interior as well. And then the standalone administrative building. All of the future phases of the production are going to be pre-engineered metal building. It's going to, mimic the overall production facility. So these two standalone out parcel structures are the pieces that we're really trying to bring in the Paducah kind of Paducah brand. So again, this will be visitor-client interface, and then there's also some staff support spaces associated with the administrative building. Right now, the administrative portion of their program will be housed within the 160,000 square foot facility. When this building comes online, that would be transitioned into training for future employees. Again, a branded space that would be, kind of the overall aesthetic for Paducah, bringing in the branding colors, a lot of glass and natural light. Some more of the kind of outdoor structures, really trying to, get the visitors and staff to, get outside and provide some shade. And again, the tilt wall structure with some branding indicated as well. The back side of the building that would be facing the production facility with a physical connection through, some outdoor amenity, shading devices, landscaping, planting, things of that nature. And that is the end of the overall aesthetic review. Any questions I can answer?
Nice.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say it looks nice. We'll be at the cafe.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it would be great. That corner.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's okay. So, excuse me, yeah. So is this the same presentation that you gave to the FAA?
No, it's not. They didn't go through all the aesthetic with the FAA. It was really just the building.
It was just really going through and talking about the heights as far as trying to where the location of the buildings are going to be located and relative to that.
Show them like a section, and so that, because sometimes when we look at, and I don't see, is our airport manager here? Is Nathan here? Nathan, were you present for the presentation to the FAA?
Well, I worked with Greg before they started and then reached out to Miss Ganley. And then what they do is they got to go on the OE AAA website.
Yeah.
And they punch in the Latin longs and then it'll give them the heights. But then they actually submit formal plans for, for review.
Yeah, because the ones that I've seen, they actually have a section and it shows the cone of, the area where they are concerned about potential safety issues and things like that.
Yeah, well, you got your...
I was just going to say, the Hoyle Tanner, who's really an airport consultant quite a bit, they're the ones who actually did the SMIL to FAA with whatever was required for that documentation to get them to review it and to approve whether the heights were going to be acceptable based on the location. We were looking at different heights on the property.
Okay.
Yeah, and then on that one corner, the RPZ, the red hatched, that's part of the surface floor coming in. So.
All right, good. So you've had an
Yeah, all the
opportunity, you've been involved in the process and you're comfortable and supported?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, thanks.
What was the height? I mean, and this is probably, I'm
Sorry, I wasn't
I'm
finished. Okay, so regarding the design, so have you done these designs and built these structures in other communities? Or is this the initial? Okay, so this is not just kind of pie in the sky. It's reasonable to assume that that's what these are going to look like? It's like a value engineering option?
This is what it's going to look like.
Okay, great. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, so the element, the retail store, is a prototype for Baduco. They've done these in Brazil, so it will be exactly what we're showing you on the picture.
Very exciting. Very good looking. Thank you.
And I echo that because I think it's going to be a great way to kickstart that industrial corridor right there. And what nice buildings to have out there, the first ones. What was the height? I mean, there was a height issue. What on the building was too high?
So we are, the phase one, the peak is at 42 foot.
Okay.
And the slope is down to 37 foot. In phase two, we're going from a wafer line to a panettone line. And there's a piece of equipment with respect to the baking of the bread that has a very high height, which is farther away from the airport, which is better for us, but it is in phase two in the future expansions. You can
Okay.
kind of see that 63H
Right.
justified all the way to the north of phase two in future expansions.
Okay.
So it's tiered up, just like the cone would be if you were looking at that.
And it's, from a facade standpoint, the facade's still going to remain continuous. This is actually inboard. This was a rudimentary kind of exercise, but it is actually it's a penthouse piece. It won't be articulated on the facade like this.
Thank you. Just one last question. Did you bring any cookies? No, I'm just kidding.
Darn.
Just kidding.
On the way up, Clever said I should have sent panettone.
I'm kidding.
Well, that's a good presentation. I'm glad the building's going to look like that. I think it's going to be like the best advertisement for our industrial corridors. When that building is there, as soon as that thing gets there, I think it's just going to really benefit the city and the industrial corridor. Great looking design.
Well, the Baduco group, they're as excited as you guys are about
Good.
being here in Zephyrhills, so thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Just a side note, staff and the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the conditional use. And just on a side note, all this discussion about residential, how many employees are we going to have here ultimately? 500? 600. So we're going to need these apartments. We're going to need these townhomes. We want them to live and work in Zephyrhills, right? We don't want them commuting from Wesley Chapel or Hillsborough County. We want them living here. So that missing middle that you talked about, Councilman Wilkerson, is a key thing that we're looking at. We're looking at the housing element right now, and we'll talk more about that later. But it's a big factor with a couple employers are coming that we're going to need the housing for.
Right. Thank you. So we're just looking for a...
I'd move approval of item 3.1.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve business item 3.1. All in favor? Say aye.
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 Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Motion passed unanimously. 3.2. Rodney. Rockin' Rodney coming back up.
Good evening again, Council and Mayor. I'll be one of the first customers in line for a cake. Mention those little vanilla wafers they have, definitely. So the next agenda item, following in Todd's footsteps like the previous one that I just did, this dovetails because the next agenda item is a Paducah property. They're purchasing the property. It's my understanding they don't have any existing plans for it, but it's for potential future expansion. Do we have the, oh, it's, okay. Okay, so it's an annexation into the city and then a future land use amendment and a zoning amendment as well. And what's really nice about this is that as you can see from the industrial corridor that we are assembling, this completes the last area over in this section to be annexed into the city. So that's wonderful. We have a couple other properties that we're working on, just future reference, that we're bringing into the city right now, but this will complete this. So this is approximately 13 acres, and it's about 2,500 feet south of the 6th Ave extension, abutting Chauncey. It's in conformance with the JPA and the utility service area and the existing infrastructures in place. And then from a global standpoint, it meets chapters 171 Florida statutes for annexing into the city. It's not going to create an enclave. It's for urban purposes. It's reasonably compact, and it's contiguous, as you know, to existing boundaries for the city. Here's an illustration. So it's going from industrial in the county to the light industrial in the city. And then, whoops, I got that. So the industrial and then the light industrial for the zoning over here. So again, our industrial corridor is filling up very nicely with high quality people. It's consistent with a flu classification of I. It's consistent with current and possible potential future trends in growth and development in the area. It's not going to result in premature development, and then it meets the land development code for the LI zoning. The water impact, it was factored into the existing water use permit that we have on record with the Water Management District. And then the traffic impacts, we don't know, as I stated earlier, what this is going to be at the time of the application. At that point, we'll work with our engineer of record, Kimley Horn, for traffic analysis and make sure that we cover all that stuff. And the usual things, there's not too many trees out there, gopher tortoises, all the environmental things as well, okay? The Planning Commission recommended approval back in July of this year. SPRC recommended approval as well, and staff, we recommend approval of this application as well this evening. And this is the director's report, so we're just looking for direction to move work with the city attorney for the ordinances.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie. So
Yes.
the economic development that we hope Paducah would bring has already started.
It certainly has, and we've been in the newspaper, in the Tampa Bay Business Journal, and many other media outlets, and a lot of times over the past couple.
That's kind of nice. They don't even have anything out there yet, and it's already starting to
Absolutely.
get
Definitely.
things rolling. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for Rodney? You're just looking for consensus?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
yeah,
supportive of
sounds
Okay.
great.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Rodney. All right, we are at the portion of the meeting for citizens' comments. So is anybody signed up to speak?
Yes, I have one signed up specifically for citizens' comment, Kyle Salvato.
All right. Kyle, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Kyle Salvato, this might take more than 3 minutes. 4241 Skydive Lane. I just haven't been here in a while. We've been really busy, and I wanted to update you guys on a couple things. I have a quick video for you guys, but as I discussed, my vision for Skydive City is what you guys, not what you grew up with, but something more along the lines of the Vandenberg Center. But we've been working specifically with a couple things, including the airport manager on and Mr. Poe on getting one of the FAA issues dealt with. We recently had our drop zone surveyed for so we can begin supporting U.S. military training events. And we also have been very busy, and I finally feel like we have a secure foundation to continue to revamp Skydive City. I have a brief video for you. As you remember, we had a Skydive First project come through a couple months back. We actually got to take the first live one, and if we could play that for the council, it would be appreciated.
Hey guys, how are we doing today? Good. You're here for the Skydive First project? Woo! Who's jumping today? Yeah. Alright. You're jumping with my buddy Kyle Savato. I'm the owner here at Skydive City of Zephyrhills. We're just taking up to 14,000 feet in the air and out. What? Yeah, let's go. 120 miles an hour. Are you ready for this race? I'm so ready. I can't wait. Alright, tell me what this Skydive means to you right now. It means the world. I've never even thought of doing this when I was walking. So I definitely think it's possible being in chair, and you guys take my dreams come true, so I appreciate it. That's what we do here, right? Let's go. Rain? But he can fly. Let's do it, brother.
Wow. Look at that. What a landing.
What do you think of that?
I'm addicted. As soon as the chute opened and Kyle, the owner and instructor, could hear me, that's the first thing out of my mouth. I'm addicted. Yeah. I don't know what I was expecting, but that was amazing. That was unreal. Words can't describe what I just did. You have to experience it for yourself. Yeah. It was amazing.
Now, what does Skydive First project, what does it mean to you?
I can't, it hasn't hit me yet. I'm a little overwhelmed, but I feel like my brain was just reset. It's crazy. Whatever stress I had before I just did that is not there anymore. It's wild.
Yourself, but there's somebody out there right now watching this video. They just saw you make this skydive, and they're thinking, could I do that?
Anyone can do this. With these instructors, these guys, I felt so comfortable. They walked me through everything, and it's unreal. If you have any doubts, come in and talk to them, and they'll make you feel at ease. It was amazing. It was nothing to be scared of. It was one of the best experiences of my life, probably the best.
And a special message to the organization Skydive First Project. Anything you'd like to say to them?
Thank you so much for making the stream come through. I won't even realize what this did for me until days and weeks down the road, but it was amazing. I can't put it into words. It's fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks for letting me tag along with you here at Skydive City. Thank you for letting me see that first skydive that you made with the Skydive First Project. There's only one thing better than the first, and that's the second. So we hope to see you back out there, okay?
It's a little fun after a long meeting there. So with that, that was a great, those are the ones I really live for, to be honest, at this point. But we've been really busy, and I feel like I got a good footing now. For the past 30 days, we have had over 130 Qatari military with us here in Zephyrhills training. Some of you might have noticed the increased air traffic. And we've done something that has not been seen by this industry in the world to this point. And we're currently building the next generation of military skydivers for Qatar, and I hope to continue to do so for the U.S. by getting this drop zone service. But I'd like to just share a couple pictures with you that I can't send to the general public. But if you, every day for the past month at 5 o'clock in the morning, my chief pilot and I got up for sunrise demonstration team jumps in which we flew both otters in formation over Zephyrhills and let out 36 people that build formations in the sky. So if you just go otter formation 1 and 2. Real quick for them. And with these officers here, with that, there was 60 of them that have never jumped before. And we were tasked with licensing as many as we could with an A license. So that's right here above Zephyrhills. That's the demonstration team. That's the next team we're building. If you want to just cycle through them, that's fine. And it's a pretty unique experience to watch. You have Formation 1. So we fly the otters together within probably 20 feet of each other. As you can see, you guys are in the background right there. And then we'll go Formation 2. And then we can go back to the demonstration team. So these are the guys you're going to see building the formation. They were started a long time ago here in Zephyrhills in 2018, and we're building the next generation. So you go back, we'll just show a couple demonstration 1, 2, and 3 real quick for these guys. And they'll be back September 20th. So if you come outside at 6:30 in the morning and you look over that way, every day, Monday through Friday, we'll be up there. And that's what they do every time for 3 revolutions until about 9 o'clock, and then they're done. So they're there. They're training specifically for a show for the king. They come here for 60 days or 40 days at a clip just for one show a year for the king over there. But with that, in working with the Qatar Air Sports Committee, we've established a new home for them, and they're looking forward to returning here heavily and possibly collaborating on a future expansion of facilities and continuing the business. We flew a record of 757 otter loads with completed 11,804 skydives in 30 days. So that's why you haven't seen me at any meetings for a while. So I got a couple closeout ones real quick. The students, so out of the 60 that came over, these 40, not only we shattered the goal of A license, we got them B licensed skydivers, and some of them achieved over 100 jumps in 30 days. Oh. And then I also flew in instructors and staff that through my network from all over the country and the world to help certify them in such a rapid pace. So I just wanted to share that with you guys and close on that.
Well, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. And that's Skydive First, is that what it was called, that project?
Skydive First project, that's a veteran that was paralyzed. And
Right, and we saw that.
Yeah, that was a different, so you met the guy sitting next to him last time that became a
Right,
licensed
right.
jumper, and this is the first time we took someone that's actually experiencing, Great Depression as part of the therapy to adventure therapy.
Well, I think it's a great project, and I think it's something that Kevin, I mean, if you could get a hold of that video and kind of push that out there.
That I can do for sure. I'll get him to that, no problem. I can't give you the other one, so.
And the story.
It's Qatari military. So.
Yeah, and the story behind the project, too.
We could definitely work with that, and I'll get with Kevin on that, so.
Okay.
Because I'd like to get you as much as possible so we work together, so. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kyle. Keep up the good work out there. We have anybody else signed up, Ricardo?
I have 2 others signed up that didn't specify an item.
Okay.
Is there a Kim Earl?
Okay. Just come up, remember to state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes for comments.
Kim Earl, 37741 Phelps Road. Monday morning at 4 a.m. I was awakened to sounding like a whitewater rapid. Well, of course, I jump up and I was like, what is that? Well, of course, it's Trotters Crossing flooding me one more time. I think this makes 7, 8 times. Of course, I couldn't see because it's dark out, so I just know that the water's coming. I don't know where from at this point till it got a little bit more daylight, and I could see that the culvert to the east of me, the top had come off, and the retention pond is draining down into the swale into my yard. I don't know how many gallons of water. I know Mr. Maggart told me the last meeting they're allowed to put 25% of the water on my property. Well, I can guarantee you it was 100% that day. Nothing stayed up there on that property but was already existing in that pond. So my question is, did the engineer mess this up? Did the builder mess it up? Who permitted it? Who inspected it? Why did this happen? I've talked to Mr. Poe. I requested a meeting between him and the contractor, Joe. He set it up for next Monday. But, I mean, to no fault of mine, why did this happen again? I was told once it's permitted, they're building, everything's been inspected, nothing's going to happen. And here I am again, flooded. I have some pictures that I'd like to pass around in case. I know some of you saw a video, but I didn't have time to make a flash drive. And, okay, so 25% of water, how do you measure that? A cup for me, a cup for you? Nobody's ever answered that. And 25% of what water? And this was just, you know, another storm. It was, I think, on record, Zephyrhills had 8.7 or something inches. I don't know how much fell up there, but here I am again, preaching my sad story. But I think somebody needs to be held accountable other than I just bought the low end of the property. I mean, it flooded me. 2 neighbors to the west of me, I mean, they were underwater as much as I was. The next day, the inspector from Pasco County came out, and I went up there to meet him because I saw him up there, and he's like, I don't know why, this is just a mess. This culvert's not right. The pond's not big enough. The pond is still pretty close to full. There is another drain up there because this wasn't supposed to breach. There is another drain up there, which is right behind my house, and the culvert comes out into the swale at my property. So I walked up there and looked. Well, it's not big enough to handle the water when it's going to come in. And the middle section of the drain is covered with silt screen and hay, so only the top and the other end would drain water. The middle can't even drain water in that. And now the swale has filled up with so much sand from the property that it's almost level. It's not even a swale anymore. Oh, and the next day they had 3 people in the swale with flat shovels trying to pick a little bit of sand out from between the rocks.
Okay, Ms. Earl, and you spoke to the city manager since that happened, like last week? Okay, and Billy, can you kind of just give us, you know, what, I mean, I don't know at this point that we have recourse other than what we know, what the engineer has told us, I guess.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared. Ms. Earl said she wasn't coming tonight because we had a meeting scheduled with the developer. So, developer is scheduled to meet with us on Monday afternoon to discuss the repairs. I'm trying to get to my emails.
Well, can I jump in while you're looking?
Go ahead.
So I went out there with Billy last Monday when it was coming down. What happened was that storm drain, the lid popped.
Right.
And that's where the flooding came from. And then the next day they were out there
Fixing it.
building the storm drain up. So they put a couple levels of bricks, I guess, and concreted it, so it's higher. But I agree, and I don't understand the 25%. I don't understand.
I apologize. I don't know what.
You told me that at the last meeting when I was here. Legally, they could let 25% of water onto my property.
I don't think I ever quoted an amount. I know that certain, and, you know, natural flow of water can continue onto
No, because I wouldn't have just come up with a percent.
Okay, well, I'm telling you, I didn't say that, so.
Not yet. Not yet.
I don't know if Craig said that or.
Okay, because I went out there again today with Billy. I think that my understanding has been that when we build a project and we have it engineered and we approve it and sign off on it, that they're supposed to maintain the water on the site.
And we don't have it engineered, though. It's not the city.
No, their engineer does
Right.
it, and we've started, because of this, we're having an engineer review the engineer, because this has been such a problem. So we've learned a little, from this incident. But my understanding is that they're supposed to maintain the water on their property.
So it's, and I'm not an engineer, so we need to get an engineer to describe all this. But there's pre and post retainage, I guess. So you have to retain your pre-construction, you know what that discharge is, and or what you retain on the site. So you have to retain the same amount, or you're allowed to discharge the same amount as pre-construction during post-construction. So if there was flow that is documented, evidenced, they can continue to allow that to flow off the property post-construction. So if they allow, if there's a foot of water that flows off the property, they build the ponds to collect, retain all of that water except for 1 foot, that same 1 foot that discharged prior to construction.
So I'm going to make this real simple, or try to. So before they built anything, let's just say 100 gallons of water went down there. So when they build it, and with all the roads and houses and everything, they have to then maintain everything but 100 gallons again.
That's my understanding of how it
So
works,
what
yes.
came down before this was built? Did you have?
Nothing. And I'll swear on a Bible, no water came off that hill onto my property before this started.
Logic would say that, that
There were
the water would
orange groves up
percolate down
there.
into the grass. I mean,
Well, some would percolate, and plus it's going to more sheet flow instead of, I think the problem is because of development, it's kind of diverted it or maybe concentrated it a little bit more than what it would have been before.
But, guys, we had a 9 to 10 inch rain in 24 hours.
I know, and that's the bad thing about it, since
that's a
this
lot of
project's been going,
water.
we've had about, 3 different kind of major, once in a 100-year thing happen.
And we had 4 more inches yesterday.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, that's a significant rain event, and I don't know if you were there when that significant rain event, but water goes downhill. I mean.
I understand, and I've been told, you tell me that every meeting, but I'm telling you, I've lived there 16, 17 years. This has not happened until now.
Well,
It used to be orange groves, pasture, hayfield. It held the water. I've never had this. I wouldn't have lived there if this was happening. I mean, I'm not stupid.
And we're seeing in our neighborhood is going to have significant rain right now. It's rising now, and the last time we had that was 1998. So if you weren't here in 98, that's when in 2004, there was a significant rain event then. So if that, I'm telling you, I'm not saying that it did or didn't, but I know that we've had some significant rain these past couple of weeks.
But, okay, so with that, this place is supposed to be secure and inspected. Well, I still got wet. I mean, I can't control Mother Nature. You can't control Mother Nature. I'm just telling you, it's happening to me now. This is the 8th time it's happened. It's not fair to me.
I agree.
I get told, oh, well, sorry, Mr. Earl, you live on the low spot. Well, the low spot wasn't a problem until they graded that hill.
Well, so, City Manager, you said there's a meeting scheduled for next Monday with the developer. I think before we get into too much discussion, we need to probably wait till after that meeting, and they could probably answer questions better than what we can ask them, I guess. So is the meeting with Ms. Earl and
Correct.
Okay. So I think our best recourse now is to at least wait and see what happens, what the outcome of that meeting is, so we could have better answers instead of just, throwing general questions out there.
And I ask, SwiftMud is the permitting agency.
Right.
Right? So, is there going to be a SwiftMud representative there?
No, my understanding of the reason the meeting was set up was to have the developer to clean the site, clean Miss Earl's property and make things right.
But the explanation
Right.
of why and what is supposed to flow off of there is a swift mud question and answer, right?
Well, I would say the engineer.
Engineer. So he should be able to explain it, and he's
Correct.
going to be at this meeting?
He is not,
Oh,
no.
well,
This
then-
meeting was, just to
only
set
clean
up
up.
to
Okay.
get the developer on there to do the cleanup.
I mean, I would hope the contractor could tell me what the engineer, I mean, there's plans for this project and everything's mapped out on the plans.
Right.
And the engineer, I'm assuming, did what do they do, the 100-year event type thing, so that was all factored into their engineering. Would it be
I can't
difficult?
tell you that it was built to a 100-year storm
Okay.
event. It may have been a 25, I believe.
All right.
Yeah, I believe it's a 25-year
Okay,
storm
25-year.
event.
All right, well, but I think, as Councilman Smith said, it wouldn't be a bad idea. If the engineer's not going to be there, is there a possibility for him to be on a Zoom to answer some questions? Because I think we run into these same problems, which I've kind of stated, that we spend too much time meeting here with this one and this one and this one. We just keep going around in circles. We need everybody in the room that's pertinent to this project and try to get something resolved.
Yeah, we can ask the design engineer to be there.
I think that would be a good
Probably-
idea
probably by
in
Zoom.
that particular meeting, so. Well, thank you, Ms. Earl, and I would wait,
Did Billy have something to say?
I don't know. He's back there waving.
All right, I didn't mean to.
But
Okay,
I
so-
just need to know who to hold accountable because it's not fair to me that it just keeps happening. And,
Right.
I thought it was safe. They permit, it looks good, but it's
Okay,
not.
we'll have to,
And the man Richard from the Pasco County, he's like, this is a joke. These ponds aren't near big enough to retain this water.
all right, and then.
Well, I don't know that the code enforcement guy is an engineer and qualified to make that statement.
Right.
No, I know, I understand that.
Okay.
But, I mean, we have to keep in mind, this is the 8th time it's happened.
I personally
And-
think it's a civil matter at this point.
And I think that, I mean, Swift Mud is over that part, but we approved it as well.
But we rely on swift mud. We don't know anything about water and water flow. We
All right,
rely on
now,
engineering and
okay.
swift mud
I
for
knew
that.
I'd get him up here.
All right,
Bill Burgess, building official. The engineer of record is the ultimate, he engineered it, he designed it, and the contractors, they have the insurance, that's their responsibility as well. Craig, the engineer, has been here before and had said that at the end of the day, when everything's working properly, which it didn't the other day, and they've made a repair to that,
Right.
so hopefully that's gonna take care of it, that they're gonna have some bypass water that's always historically flowed around that property as well, and it's gonna go to the low spot. And so to say that it's never happened before, I mean, I wasn't gonna say anything, but I've been here forever. I've seen Phelps Road closed due to water in the past. I dated a girl down there, went to her house, couldn't get to her house.
You
So-
take a rowboat, didn't you?
There
no,
has
we need
been
to-
water there.
that's
They've made
right.
improvements. It used to flow from what's Zephyr Lake down that way.
What
They
about
put in that
Sunshine
big
Road?
box
Have you
culvert.
dated anybody down there? Because we were down there today, too.
Where's that?
Sunshine Road.
But today I've drove down, I went down Phelps, it's dry now. I mean, you had a large storm, and that's what happens in Florida when you get a large storm. And Phelps Road is notoriously wet.
Right, I know, but I'm still, I think my point is that then the engineer and the developer,
The
we should,
engineer is the one
somebody
that
has to
has-
apply pressure to them to
That's
say,
right.
come out here and fix this.
Right. The engineer is the one who is responsible. He designed it. If it's not working properly, that falls on him.
Would we be
He
the one to
signs
tell
off-
him to do
He signed
that?
off on the project saying it was built substantially to his conformance, and that's where it goes to. And like Councilman Smith said, if it doesn't work, it becomes a civil matter between the engineer and the people who are affected.
Well, I think the important part, two important parts to this is that water, depending on the storm event and the amount of rainfall, water will discharge from the site. It will happen. In this case, the manhole was lower than the outfall of the pond, Therefore, the pressure of the water, instead of continuing to fill up the pond, push the manhole cover up and then discharge that way. I can't tell you how much extra water left the site because it discharged from the manhole cover opposed to the outfall structure. That would be the engineer that would have to do that.
Because of that manhole was lower, it never reached the outflow. And
Correct.
It's quite a bit below the outfall
And you
now.
could see that in the video. You could see the water bubbling up through the manhole.
There's no doubt, there was a lot of water that
Yes, I'm not no
came
doubt
out of that.
It discharged and it was a mistake and hopefully they've corrected that.
That manhole has been raised at least a foot. I didn't go out and measure it, but that has been raised.
It looked a lot higher. But, all right, so my question is, it looks apparent that the engineer and the developer have not met all the requirements they should have met since this has occurred like 7 or 8 times. But it's not up to us who permitted it to say to them?
As far as what? I mean,
So
we
Bill
issue a site
permits.
development
Yeah,
permit,
Bill
but
permits the ground up, right? He described that
As the
before.
building official,
Right,
that's,
as
I mean, my expertise is vertical, but.
Right, vertical.
Right, vertical. But,
Swift Mud is the,
so her only recourse is to sue the developer
It
and
would
then?
become that, yeah, well, typically, anytime a contractor makes mistakes, what you want them to do is fix their mistake. And as long as they're fixing those mistakes, there's not a whole lot you can do. It's when they stop fixing the mistakes and things like that, that ends up going to civil matter.
But when they come in here and get a permit to start building, and I know you're the vertical guy, but the whole project is permitted under our auspices, so.
So what we would do, and I guess Billy's already done it and spoke to the developer, you would go to them and say, hey, you had this issue, you need to correct it. And then they raise the manhole so that's what their correction is. And, you know, that's.
But then the people that live downstream have to just wait and see, hope that's the last thing?
Well, or they get into a civil thing with them. I mean, part of the,
Yeah, I don't think the building department does not go out and measure the elevations of inlets or
No, I'm not
manhole
saying-
covers.
I'm
But
not saying that. I'm saying that they get a permit from us to go out there and build a development. And then when it's having a negative impact numerous times on neighbors, then we don't have any recourse, even though we issued the permit?
But like Bill said, we go out and we talk to the developer or the builder or the owner, whoever it is. And as long as they're making the corrections or making an effort to correct the issue, then we continue to work with them. In this case, we've had a pond, the embankment blowout, that was repaired, did not blow out this time. I don't even remember what all the issues are. In this case, it was the manhole cover popped off. So that, they were called that day at noon. I spoke to the developer and the engineer. The next day, they were out there making that repair. So I think they're not, this isn't intentional, but to that point, anytime there's an issue, they've responded to us. Maybe not to everyone's liking, but specific to this issue. Hey, the manhole popped off, the engineer reviewed it, it's lower than the discharge of the pond or the outfall of the pond, so they came out, made that repair. So this issue should not happen again. The issue of the manhole popping off and discharging should not happen again.
was that on the plans that we approved? The elevation of the manhole cover, was that on the plans, the engineering plans?
I don't know if it was the engineer, if they built a design, or if it was built
Isn't there a
incorrectly.
surface water
I couldn't answer
management permit issued by Swift Mud?
Swift Mud, yes.
And in other words, when that surface water permit is issued, they submit documents to Swift Mud with all the elevations on it.
Correct, with their design.
With the design and everything.
The retention of water.
And then after, they submit an as-built to Swift Mud as well.
Correct. When we get it, well, I would assume they do. We get a letter from the engineer that says at the end that it was built in conformance to his design.
And so we rely on the engineer and Swift Mud.
They have the expertise, correct?
So, I mean,
And we rely on the developer to do what they've promised they're going to do
Right. Now-
for us.
now-
It's
Now-
like any contractor, even the engineer, they all carry liability insurance for reasons
That's right.
like this, and that's the recourse.
And I think
if-
you have recourse against their liability insurance, I really do, because they've got to make you whole, so.
Yeah, if there's been a harm, that's why they have the insurance. That's why all contractors have the insurance.
And I'll say, it doesn't help Miss Earl in this case, but we were not, well, not this, but we were not sending it out to a second engineer to review. Since this issue has come up, we now send it out to an engineer to review, to get a set of eyes on it, kind of QC, that we don't have the expertise on staff to do.
Yes, you have to, you have to have peer review on something like that.
Right.
But we don't have an engineer on staff, so.
So where we're at right now is that on Monday, you're having a meeting with Miss Earl, the contractor, and I would strongly suggest that the engineer is on there too, for all the reasons that we stated. So at this point, that's all we can do is just wait till that meeting happens before we can do there's anything else we can do.
Yes.
So, okay, all right, so we'll wait, and, you can inform us on what became of that meeting. All right, thank you. All right, thank you.
Okay, so it infuriates me that nobody believes that property didn't get wet. Phelps Road floods. It's flooded since I lived there. Did I come up here and say Phelps Road didn't flood? No. My property did not flood before this happened. So I don't, nobody believe me. You don't have to believe me, but I'm telling you the truth. That property did not get wet before this.
Well, let me tell you, it's not that, none of us, not that we don't believe you. We've seen the videos, we've seen the pictures, we've also discussed this a tremendous amount of times, and really, all we can do now is continue to work with the developer, the contractor, to rectify the situation, or it does become a civil matter at this point, so.
And yes, things get fixed as it come along, but I gotta pay in the meantime. Okay, so I got flooded when they graded it, they put silt.
Well, again, I think that would fall under the civil reclaim or something, so.
Yeah, okay, so I can sue them civilly, but I can't afford an attorney. You can't get your attorney fees back. There's no.
Well, I don't know. I couldn't tell you on that. Yeah, I don't know about reclaiming those fees or not. But at this point, this is all we can do as a council is wait till this meeting's over with and find out, what our next. We really don't have a course of action necessarily, but just to continue to work with the developer and the contractor. So.
What did you say the engineer sends it to SwiftMud, the surface?
Surface water permit or stormwater? It's either stormwater or surface water permit.
Okay, well, thank you, Ms. Earl.
Yeah, right here. Thank you.
Ricardo's next on the list. Did I say Ricardo? I said Ricardo next on the list. No, I said Ricardo.
There's a Monique Tillado that has signed up to speak.
Okay.
I think she left.
Okay.
That's it?
Anyone else?
That's it.
Okay. Does anybody else want to speak to any item in the city? Dave?
Dave's fine.
All right, seeing none, I'm going to move on to somewhere. I can't remember the order now. So, Mayor.
I do not have anything at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. City Manager.
So Monique was here, I believe, to speak about Abbott Square.
Oh.
Water issue.
Okay.
I've seen a head shake in the back,
Yeah.
so.
I see Mr. Almeida, who I would like to
okay.
thank publicly, and I can talk to this a little bit if you'd like for me to.
Sure. I'm sorry. I had no idea who you were.
Yeah.
So I will tell you kind of where we've been. Well, I got involved, I guess, Monday. Rainfall came down. What we have done is we have reached out to, and I've personally spoken to the engineer of record on the project. I passed out an email to each of you from, this is from Todd to me. He had a conversation with the engineer today, and this is his recollection of the meeting. There's been concerns about, and I may get this wrong, Pond 2 discharging into a wetland. The conversation I had and that Todd had is that is legitimate, or that is a concern that will be addressed. They're supposed to survey and shoot some elevations. The pond was not, I don't know if it was designed that low or if it was constructed that low, but that will be fixed so that that pond embankment is higher than the outfall so that it will retain that water. Lennar has committed to addressing the ponding at the inlets on Hollywood? Beverly Hills, thank you. I knew it was one of those. At Beverly Hills, right near the clubhouse. There was some sediment and erosion control that was removed. They're addressing that. They being Lennar are addressing that. I believe that is everything that I'm aware of.
Was our engineer on this?
Did not have an engineer on this. This was prior to the Miss Earl issue, Trotters Crossing issue. I apologize.
So now we have
Who was,
review, permit review of the stormwater by an engineer. What about a post? Do they check the as-built? We should have the post as well, because Mrs. Earl's problem was a post, and this one sounds like a post.
Yeah, we do not send it in for as-built. We send it in prior to or at submittal, prior to construction, to make sure it's designed correctly. We were not doing that.
Correctly.
Correct.
So we need to do that.
Correct.
who was their engineer?
Joe Semino with WRA.
But I guess what I'm asking is, why are we copying Craig?
He's
Because
acting
Craig
as-
is our reviewer.
Yeah, all kind of incestuous. So, if I could.
Yeah, of course.
Mr. Poe, so this has really been going on for over a year, and I have been out to the site. I've spoke with several residents. I've visited site with Mr. Vandenberg, and this again is a situation where we are relying on our developer partners when we issue these permits and we allow these folks to build on these properties that, you know, have water issues. You know, this is in a I mean, Silver Oaks is in a lake bed, a former lake bed. So, you know, the reality is that we're relying on them to do what they say they're going to do. They have these engineers design these ponds for a 100-year event or whatever, and then there's mistakes or shortcuts, and it's just this ongoing drain on our staff's time. And so, you know, I mean, literally, I have, you know, 25 or 30 emails about this issue. And there are things from ADA issues, you know, accessibility around the site, but mostly it's the retention ponds are not functioning. Now, some function great. Others are not functioning as they were designed to function. We have a set of construction plans. We've approved this construction plans. The developer was supposed to design, was supposed to build in these, you know, this development in accordance with these plans, and there are mistakes. And so it becomes a drain on our staff. And at what point do we say, okay, we're going to start implementing fines here? So what I want there to be support for you and for Mr. Vandenberg to be able to implement that when it's time.
Understood. I will say that when I know several incidences, ponds are designed, and when they are built, they don't function the way that they were designed. We have, when I was at Dade City, we have one on a city project. We have one that's in front of Hercules at Wawa. It's a dry pond. It's never dry. It's wet 365 days a year. So we have the commitment from the engineer that, and again, they are submitting, and I'm not trying to pass a buck, they will submit to SwiftMud, and SwiftMud approves if it's a dry pond, wet pond. I'm not an engineer, so I'm not even going to try to describe the difference, other than it's dry and wet, right? And there's a certain amount of time it can remain wet after an event. But we don't make that approval if the pond remains a wet pond, or if it's converted from a dry pond to a wet pond after design and construction. What I can commit to is that as a staff, we'll continue to work with the engineer to try to get it right. Same as with Miss Earl or Trotter's Crossing. So.
Thank you. Just, I just want to go on record as saying that, we are counting on our developer partners to do what they say they're going to do. And that whether that's Lennar or American Homes or whomever, if they're not doing what they say they're going to do, they don't get another chance here. I mean, really, I feel like we have to be tougher. But there's 600 families that are suffering who live in this neighborhood.
Did the water get in their houses?
So
Some of them.
They got water in the houses?
No, there's no water in houses.
Is there water?
There's no water in houses.
Okay.
Yeah, no water in houses.
It's in their streets, right? It's in their, sure.
For you to state your name and address for the record.
Mike Almeida, and my address is 36500 Smithfield Ave, or Smithfield Lane. So just to give you some background, I'm a licensed civil engineer with expertise in drainage and stormwater ponds. The pond next to my house on Smithfield Lane, it's always wet since, the winter when it's not raining, it's always wet. There's some other ponds 2 and 3 that, we're overtopping over the side of the bank. And I think the correspondence with the engineer to the city, I think he's not being, in my opinion, he's not being honest and I guess lying by omission by not saying certain things. If you read the report from the permit itself, it states that those ponds should never be discharging water. He ran up to a 100-year storm for 120 hours. And his calculations are showing that no water should ever exit that pond. So if I think 4 out of the 6 or 7 ponds in that neighborhood are discharging water with a tropical storm, there's an issue. And they've said multiple times that they don't see an issue here. Everything is performing how it should be. But I don't think that's true. And what else? Going to the houses, getting some water in them. In between the townhomes on Garden Wall Way and Campfire Terrace, there's a culvert and all the water drains to the backyards. And there's some videos that were taken that those townhomes have water going into their patios, the screened-in patios. And that one, there's a walkway there that gets washed out with thunderstorms, totally washed out. I don't think, that shouldn't be happening, but Lennar just comes and they put Band-Aids on it.
Is that on Campfire? I'm sorry. Is that on Campfire?
In between Campfire and Garden Wall Way.
Oh, okay. All right.
There's like a swale and then there's like,
in between the townhomes.
and it's a recreation area.
There's a sidewalk and a pipe that goes through it, and that pipe just gets aborted through every storm. So yeah.
So our engineer, Craig Corneliuson, who was copied on this, should then be reviewing the plans to say, is this supposed to be a dry pond? If it's not a dry pond, are these calculations right? Was this constructed incorrectly? So that then we can say.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves on that. I mean, there's general engineering that we would review, but I believe per state statute that the stormwater issues in particular are reserved to the water management districts, and they permit and oversee those completely. I don't think we have any control or say with regards to stormwater aspects of it.
Okay, and SwiftMud has been involved in the process. They've had some personnel issues and there have been some delays, but Amber is actively working on this with her team. And
Hey, I mean, if I'm misspeaking, Amber, I don't know if you want to address that or not, but that's my understanding.
Amber Smith, Government Affairs of SwiftMud. So I'm not sure what you're speaking to, but we have been actively involved. We did send a compliance letter for violation. They did ask for an extension. We granted that extension. and then they replied to us. Our staff is currently reviewing that to figure out what our next steps is going to be.
What I'm referring to is all of stormwater permitting. So on the issue with Ms. Earl, on this issue, it's not the city's responsibility to permit and then enforce stormwater permits. Is that correct? That'd be Swiftmud's responsibility?
I don't know the extent that the city would have control over this property. I don't know the answer to that. Sometimes it's the county.
Okay, what about
Sometimes it's the city.
what about
But
Swiftmud?
it is we do have a permit over it.
Yeah, typically when the projects come in, regardless of the project, we approve it. And it used to be that it was contingent upon Swiftmud approval. And then there was state laws that went into effect years ago. And now we approve them, and it's just noted that Swiftmud, we cannot hold up approvals.
Right, the jurisdiction for stormwater is exclusive to the water management districts.
So in this case, I think, and again, I'm not an engineer and I'm not Swiftmud, but I think the ponds were designed to be dry ponds. And the engineer is going through the process with Swiftmud to either convert them to wet ponds and get that approval, or that's my understanding.
Yeah.
I don't know what that entails. I don't know what the process is from the engineer from Swiftmud. That's way, way above my knowledge level on water and ponds.
Let me ask you this, Billy. So when our engineer reviews it, he's just doing a general review. He's not doing like an in-depth, in other words, we're not hiring to re-engineer the entire project. So he's just doing a general review.
Correct. Yeah, they're looking at, I think, inverts, outfalls, making sure that, the manholes are higher than the outfalls, those types of things. So yes, it's just a general cursory review to make sure nothing jumps out.
So kind of going back to where Councilwoman Wilkinson was, in any project that comes before us, the engineer is the ultimate one that is saying what's going on. We are now going a little above that just because of these couple problems we've had to just kind of reinforce, what we think we know by what the engineers have told us and everything. So, and I have one other question. So, Mr. Almeida, you're up here as an individual with some expertise. Have the residents taken over the HOA yet?
In September.
In September, okay. Because I think we'll find ourselves in the same spot we are with the Miss Earl thing, where there's going to be a certain amount of stuff that we can do, and then at some point it's going to become a civil matter in the same thing.
And I think that what we need to recognize is the more we develop and build in all these places, it's going to happen more often, because the water everywhere we're building has had natural water flows. I mean, the place we went out this morning that was totally underwater outside the city limits, but when we start building on the other hill, on 301 and everything, and that all starts coming down, I mean, it's going to get worse because there's no place for all this water to go anymore because of all the building.
But we're still relying on the engineers and Swiftmud to kind of put that in the right direction.
The engineers specifically they're licensed and insured for that purpose. I'm not going to speak to what Swiftmud is doing when they get the plans, but I know that that's their jurisdiction with stormwater. And is anything, Amber, while you're up here, is anything going on with the Trotters property and Miss Earl since that last issue?
So I haven't been contacted recently. The last time we were contacted, we went out, I believe we also issued a compliance letter in that case, and it was fixed.
Oh, okay. That's
So
what that was my understanding too, is that they are complying with the request. And I think, at least my understanding, I didn't speak to the engineer, but my understanding is they looked at that manhole and agreed that it needed to be raised, whether that was a design or a construction issue, I don't know, and I'm not going to speak to.
I personally don't know about that one.
Okay, that's the most
I've been out
recent.
there previously when we issued the compliance violations. It wasn't until I saw her at the beginning of the meeting that I didn't know why she was here.
It just happened in this last storm.
But I gave her my card and asked, we have a file where she can send those large video files. And so I will be able to check on that.
I had It was sent to us, and I had
Okay,
my IT
great.
people convert it to
That
a
would be perfect.
easier to save
Yes.
file. I'll send it to you.
Okay, great.
And I'd just like to take a moment, Mr. President, if I could, to thank Mr. Almeida for coming here. And, because it's very difficult. We have all these people, they're calling me, they're sending me emails, and it makes us look very ineffective. It's very difficult for me to say to them, sorry, it's really not the city's job, it's SwiftMud's job, and here's Amber's phone number. I don't want to have to do that. I want us to have a clear path. And if that's, that we have a channel and a process, but for it to go a year or 2 or 3, it's really not fair to our residents, and I just feel like we need to have a process in place that at least makes us feel effective. Okay, thank you.
And I thank you for coming out, and you've obviously heard, what we've discussed about this, so you can kind of bring that back too. For those of us that have lived there our whole lives, or most of our lives, and we've seen a lot of development over the last 50 years, not just the recent stuff, and we've been saying for 50 years, boy, wait till that hurricane sits out there one day, all these places have been built, and they're going to be underwater, because, so, going along what you're saying, that's what's going to happen, because we rely on the engineers to make sure they get it right. And then we do what we can to rectify it the best we can.
A couple other questions about this. The pond that's next to my house at the end of Smithfield, there's the outfall pipe to that pond is a 60-inch pipe that they built 12 feet below the pond bottom. And so that pipe is actually 10 feet below the groundwater table. So that pipe is always filled with water. This is supposed to be a dry pond. A normal dry pond functions by filtering the water from the top of the pond, through the pond bottom. So all of that polluted water that comes from our community goes through the pipes and is already put in 10 feet below the groundwater table. How, just gravity, how is that polluted water going to get itself to the top of the pond to filter through the pond and then go back into the groundwater table? It can't happen, right? So they're claiming that they're treating water through these dry ponds. Every single one of those dry ponds, the outfall pipe that one is 12 feet below the ground. Most of them are on average like 6 to 8 feet below the pond bottom.
Do you live on the cul-de-sac?
Yes.
Is that the one where we saw like the dry pond and then the wet area? Yes? Okay, all right.
Yeah, so just their claim in the permit about treating water as they're supposed to be doing with these new developments, they can't be treating the water if they're outfalling the polluted water into the groundwater table. And then that 60-inch pipe that's built 12 feet below the ground, on the construction plans that were available on the SwiftMud website with the permit, that 12-foot hole is not even shown on the plans. So whatever was approved by the city, they omitted that large 12-foot hole from the plans. And so how could you, accurately approve something when it wasn't there? And is there any recourse, I guess, that the city can take about that?
I don't know. I'll have to go look. I don't know. First I've heard of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can look at it.
So I moved in there at the end of September, so almost a year now, and they dug that large hole in October. And that's what kind of started this whole process, because it's supposed to be a dry pond. There's a 12-foot hole that's filled with 10 feet of water all the time. It's just a safety issue for kids in the neighborhood that are, if it was dry,
There's no fence there, yeah.
playing there, that's a 10-foot hole straight down.
Which one is that? Sorry, just saw it.
At the end of Smithfield?
Yeah, that's the one to the left?
Yeah,
Or
it's
the
the
big
largest
one?
pond there, yeah.
The big pond that's full of water right now, not the small one that's empty or that's dry. Okay, all right.
So our engineer hasn't looked at some of those things yet, right? Hasn't.
I don't believe so.
The issues have been brought up, so.
I don't believe so.
Okay, because he's asking the question, so I wanted to know if we have somewhat of an answer. But, so I guess he'll be looking at that.
Yeah, I don't have an answer tonight.
We just looped him in on whenever you sent this email, right?
Yeah, today.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fairly. Yeah, I understand. And then I also had a question. So we deal with the CDD a lot, and if we bring issues about those inlets that are have ponding in them, I've been emailing the CDD about that since February, and they finally responded to me 2 weeks ago, and their only response is, it was approved by the city. So the inlet is clearly sinking. There's clearly a ponding issue, next to the inlet. And all they say is, it was approved. They don't care that it's sinking or anything like that. And then when you ask them any issue about the roads in the community, they just say that they're city roads, the CDD can't touch them. But if you look on...
Wait, hold on, wait.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I don't think that's right.
I agree.
Yeah.
On the tax collector website for Pasco County, and you click on the road, it says they're owned by the CDD.
Yeah.
The CDD has an ownership map on their website that says the roads are owned by the CDD. But anything that we say to them, and the CDD is controlled by Lennar still, it's like, nope, that's the city. When
But they're
it's
not.
really not the city.
It's controlled by Lennar, so they're not really even
The
operating probably.
CDD's attorney is always at these meetings. He says they're city roads. He said he spoke to the city's attorney, and you guys have an agreement that they are city roads. Like,
Who is this?
his name is Vivek Babar or something like that. But it's just like, I know that they're owned by the CDD, but if you try to get them to do anything with the roads, it's like, no, we're not it's not,
I'll reach out to the CDD then.
And same thing with some of if there's any roads that are damaged, they say, they're gonna fix it eventually. It's covered under a bonded warranty.
So they should have, so there's a performance bond and then there's the maintenance bond.
Okay.
So the performance bond is if it's built correctly, or, per the plans, which I don't know if we've released any performance or maintenance bonds. And then the maintenance bonds are typically for 1 year after final, I'm not sure, the last CO. I think it's the last CO, or we sign off on it and then we release that.
Bond or warranty, is that owned by the city or is that with the CDD?
That's the, Todd, I don't know who, the developer typically issues those, right?
Okay. Yeah, because we asked them about that. The meeting for the CDD was last week, and they said, again, anything with the warranty is through the city, not through the CDD. So it's anything that you ask them, and the board of the CDD is still Lennar employees, so anything you ask them, it's the city, the city, the city. And
I'll tell you, it's Lennar.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If you want them to fix like the inlet that's sinking, and I've been on them for 6 months about it, they'll just say, we'll fix it before we leave. So it's an issue that they didn't construct something correctly. Instead of fixing it now, everybody that lives there has to wait however long until they leave to get that fixed. Same thing with like the cracked sidewalks or ADA issues. Everything is, we'll fix it before we leave.
Shouldn't that be fixed though before the community, all that stuff should be fixed before the HOA is turned over to the community?
That's why Mr. Almeida's here.
That's our issue.
But
He's getting in a panic,
But
it's like,
you can't take over something that that's built substandard,
Yeah, but I think like the sidewalks and stuff is technically the CDD, not the HOA. But the CDD doesn't want to fix anything.
But isn't this the exact reason we have a performance bond? Is for some issues just like this?
Exactly.
I've told them, city manager knows, I've reached out to Lennar and I've told them before they leave, I want to do an on-site inspection to go over every detail from the park amenities, the sidewalks, the fencing, the drainage issues we're working on, all that, we need to be satisfied before they leave.
the architectural shingles that didn't get put on the houses, yeah.
Had to replace all the shingles.
Can we address that real quick? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, do you think that we should go ahead and have the city attorney draft a letter to that effect and let them know, hey, this is, we're expecting a certain level of performance out of you prior to turning it over to the HOA? It might start a little bit of action anyway. Sorry.
Oh, just a question, because we talked about the dimensional shingles today. My question is, if the homeowner says, I have solar on my roof, I don't want you to touch them, I want the 3-tab instead of dimensional, what do we do?
That's a good point, because the development agreement said that all of the roofs have to be 3-dimensional.
Right.
So not the 3-tab. So if they've put these solar panels on there, then they've got to pay someone to remove the solar panels. Then what's the word I'm looking for? Voids their roof warranty. And, and then they have to come back. So I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
The difference between the 3-tab and the homeowner.
Wouldn't the company have to replace the solar panel, just do it and then replace them at their expense?
If they made a mistake, that's what would happen in my business.
Yeah, I think so. My
I'd be
question is if the
sued.
homeowner says, hey, I don't want dimensional, I want my roof the way it is, don't touch it.
It was permitted with three-dimensional, shingles, and that's what's supposed to be consistent for the neighborhood.
Right, but he's saying not coming from us enforcing our agreement with the developer. What if the homeowner now is saying, I don't want three-dimensional?
Well, the homeowner might say, I want to paint my house purple, but the CDD and the HOA say, no, can't paint your house purple, it has
That's
to
what
be
I think he's
beige.
asking, is our direction from city council for us to still go and enforce that, I guess.
Somebody doesn't.
Well, that's what I'm at, that's what he's asking.
Well, that's my question is if they go to fix, Lennar goes in and says, oh, hey, we're here to, or, we have to change your shingles to three-dimensional, and the homeowner says, don't touch my roof, leave it the way it is, I don't want you to touch it,
I'm going to
what
give
do
them
we
a
do?
check for the difference between the 3 tabs and the dimensional.
Yeah, because the reality is that they're saying no because Lennar won't pay to have the panels taken off and put back on.
I don't know that. I've not had
No,
that
I heard that.
conversation. Mike.
They want the homeowner to pay to remove them, and then Lennar will reimburse you at a later date, supposedly. But the homeowner has to.
At a later date.
Yeah, when they fix that drain.
Yeah.
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 Well, I will say too, again, as the city manager mentioned, I had a pretty good talk, I believe, with Joe Semino, and he says, hey, we're not going anywhere. We'd like to come into City Hall and meet with the city and Craig Corneliuson to review everything that we're going over. So there's a clear understanding. There were some comments made about the area to the northwest that's flooding out there, and he has some ideas on that and looking at the model for that area. I won't get into all that now, but I think with having that meeting with Craig Corneliuson and staff, we can just confirm that everything's being addressed. And then, of course, coordinating with Swift.
Are all the units completed in there?
I think they're pretty much all completed, yeah.
And how long
They're
is,
finishing up a little work out there, but,
and how long has Lennar known about the dimensional shingle issue?
oh, that was over a year ago.
And how many roofs,
and
how many
most of
roofs
them,
have they
I think,
replaced?
been done by now.
They might all be done.
We saw a couple
out there,
today.
But some of them, you have the solar panels.
Okay, the solar panel ones, all right.
I think they should be responsible to, not the homeowner. They didn't put the right roof on, then they should be responsible for the whole ball of wax there,
Okay.
in my opinion.
And then just going forward, if there are other issues that I've noticed, like some of the fire hydrants in the community don't have like that blue reflective pavement marking in front of it. Some of them do, some of them don't. If to address that, to get them to put stuff like that and little fixes, should we be going to the CDD or who should we go to?
I'd say go to the CDD, but I would say send it to Todd because we have to do a final walkthrough of the subdivision.
Copy Todd on everything you send them.
Yeah.
And then with that warranty, since they're waiting, if an issue is brought to them in February with those inlets that are sinking and they're waiting before they leave to fix it, if they don't fix it right and then in 13 months after the warranty expires, it's, we realize it's not working right because they waited so long to fix it. How does that, they're waiting to fix issues purposely to get as close to the warranty as possible to hopefully make it past the warranty.
Warranty shouldn't start until.
Yeah, I don't think the warranty starts until they turn it over. Yeah.
The hammer, all these stuff.
We still have the performance and maintenance bond. Yeah, that's the hammer.
Well,
I won't,
of course, they might be waiting so that they can get it all done in one fell swoop. That's what,
But if they would have.
it's cheaper for them to do that, yeah. Yeah, good point.
Okay. All right, and then, I think that was all the issues that I had for now. Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you for
coming
bringing it.
down.
Thank you,
Sure.
Mike.
And we're still on
Thank you, Amber.
city manager. You got
Thank you.
any other bad news for us?
No, I did mention, Yeah, oh, there it goes. The WUP, we're working towards that. We have the draft response submitted, so there's comments will be coming back in the next couple of days, so we'll continue to work on that. Pasco County is having their East Side County meeting, so Pasco, Zephyrhills, Dade City, St. Leo, St. Anne, and that is September 10th at 9:30, and it is at the Pasco County IFAS Extension Office on County Road 52, and I'll get you that address. So again, September 10th. And then there was a question about park dollars that were spent, and there was $300,000 that was budgeted this year for park improvements, and we've encumbered $249,926. So that's roughly $50,000 that's left out of that $300,000 that was allocated this year. That's all I have for this evening.
City Attorney.
Nothing from me, no.
Right. The council, I'll start down with Councilman Smith on this end here.
Thank you. A couple of things. I wanted to thank whoever got the food for tonight. I really appreciate that. Was you, Karen? Thank you so much. Other thing, we waited him out, but Clyde Bracknell was here earlier, sitting in that chair right there, and he was a councilman for 29 years. Poor dude. Kyle, thank you for, he left too. We're waiting everybody out. The one thing I think we should do is I think we should move the citizen comment to the front of the agenda. I really do. I don't think there's any reason for the people to have to wait until, wait through all of this.
A lot of the jurisdictions do that.
Yeah.
The county does it.
And I don't think that's.
We tried that.
Right.
I remember about a year or so ago, we did that for like a couple of meetings, and for some reason, something didn't work out. I think it had more to do with when they were there to speak to, they would come up and speak about something that we haven't even got to yet.
Right.
So I guess we just have to let it be known, anything that's not on the agenda.
Right.
Have comments in the beginning for things that are not on the agenda.
Yeah, and then any item that comes through, you just, is there
Make
any
your
public
comments at
comment?
that time.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it would be a service to the people to not have to sit. Nobody wants to sit through all this, right? So I think that probably would be a good thing. The other thing, the rain we've had, I mean, come on, we've had a lot of rain. We really have. And I'm not saying anything that the drainage should still be right, but we're going to have, I don't think we've seen anything yet. That's my opinion. I think we're going to have a lot more rain this hurricane season. I hope I'm wrong, but we're going to see water where we haven't seen it in a very long time. And it's already, I've already had to talk to Billy today. Our neighborhood's going to flood. I know it. It's already coming. So we're going to have a week of water running in. And then Betmar, I don't know if anybody's gone through there, but that was underwater. So there's water everywhere. We just need to do as much as we can, and there's only so much we can do. So that's it.
Nothing for me tonight.
The only thing I did is I talked with Billy and Todd today about some of the ideas about trying to do something about the growth, and I'd like to bring something to the agenda next time. So I'll get with them rather than go through it now and bring it.
All right, and I'm assuming that, and I wasn't here, we were chasing the storm back in. I was on a cruise, and we got to turn donuts out in the Gulf waiting for it to stop, and got an extra day out of the cruise on that. But when I got back and I drove into town, it was like, whoa, it was a lot of water. There was some water sitting where you hadn't seen it in a long time. So I'm assuming the city had a little bit of work to do those days. I actually saw one of our employees upside down in a manhole trying to fix a pump over there off of Morningside Drive at about 7:30 on Tuesday night. So I know you guys were working hard, so I just appreciate what you did to get us back up and running there. So, all right, and if there's nothing else, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
But we have to talk about the bill.
Got to do the ranking.
Oh, that's right.
Sure.
Is that a reconvening?
We're reconvening
We're
Yeah, we're gonna
reconvening
reconvene
the
the
workshop.
Reconvened, maybe give like 5 minutes reconvene the,
Yeah, because I got to go
We're
to the
not
bathroom
done.
again.
We're reconvening the workshop to go over.
And I've had way too much water.
Me too.
John. Hey, John.
I guess, I mean,
Okay, good.
yeah.
We got to.
Now, at this point,
It's just that there's a couple that been.
they've
Yeah,
been
they've been
waiting.
sitting here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Amber.
Yeah, been waiting a while.
Have some water issues? Okay. I got your email, I'll let you know too.
Henry Drive, Henry Avenue.
Just all
right
those,
in front of
all
the
those
high
Zephyrhills.
school. Yeah, right in front of the high school. No, it's the pond. It's